Imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo
wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwendee Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
You don't call anymore, 'cause I'm still thinking about you. Have you found somebody new? I know your love it is superior. Your devil complex inferior. Oh yes, worshipping material, bowing to your silver and gold. A heart like a lion, strong like Mount Zion. So Babylon can't ever get me down.
Ulisurprise nini na unaitwaje?
Kainyu.
Hiyo sasa ndio mbaya zaidi.
Kwa nasikia ni kama anaenda kwa daode na
Upon a time, lazima nifungue hoteli.
Ni have you ever loved?
mimi anagwanga chief. Bichega unagaa sura mbaya.
Sasa hii pombe mama hii hata sio kupenda kwangu.
Akakushika mdomo hivi, akakumiminia hivi.
Mwedi wale tunaita
Paralympic.
Sipendi sikari mingi. Kijiko ine tu.
Mimi anajua kupiga basto.
kwa leo pika Reverend.
Well, a very good morning from wherever you're watching us. You're just in time for the Good Morning Kenya show. My name is Marie Yambo. We are coming up with the news in just a short moment as the government enhances security in the North Rift region, specifically Baringo, as 20 schools remains closed. And definitely in the sports news, we'll be bringing you the Diamond League meeting in Eugene, where Paris Jepchirchir did win that particular outing of the 10,000 meters. All that coming up in the news later on. My colleagues are here in the studio, but right now I want to start off with the news where a section of Rift Valley leaders has defended the working relationship that is between President William Ruto and his deputy Rigathi Gachagua and accused the political detractors of driving a wedge between the two. The Kenya Kwanza leaders who accompanied Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for an interdenominational church service at Matharo Primary School in Kisses, that is Uasin Gishu County, called on other leaders within the ruling coalition to come to the fore hold and forgo 2032 political succession talks. On his part, the Deputy President called for an end to tribal politics, which he says had previously divided the nation.
For the second day running, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua pitched camp in Keses, Uasin Gishu County. It is here where the Kenya Kwanza leaders accompanying the country's second-in-command called for unity within their ranks and focus on delivering their promises to the electorate.
Mimi na rais tunafanya kazi nzuri, tunapendana, tunapanga kazi yetu. Amenipatia kazi mingi, hata ingine inanishinda. Ameniwezesha kuendelea na kazi yangu. Kwa hivyo serikali yetu iko imara, tunaendelea na kazi.
Hii siasa kidogo kidogo watu waache. Na Your Excellency, kalia kiti vizuri na proper. Na uendeshe gari pale mbele, kalia steering. Na usaidie William Ruto tuende Ruto term 2 kwa sababu tuko na haja na kuona term 2.
Sisi viongozi vijana pia tuwe watu wa kuheshimu wale viongozi wako mbele yetu, ili miaka zingine pia tupate hiyo baraka ya kusonga mbele.
Kwa hivyo na waomba na wasihi, hiyo amani tuweke. Hiyo amani tuweke na tupeane heshima, kwa sababu heshima ndio kitu ya maana.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua urged the populace to give a deaf ear to the political leaders propagating tribal politics.
Lakini kila mtu sasa amekuja kujua ukweli. Rais William Ruto ni kiongozi wa kuaminika, ni kiongozi mzalendo, ni kiongozi wa kuunganisha watu, ni kiongozi hana ukabila, ni kiongozi wa kuchunga watu wake.
Basi hapo tumefika, tuseme ni kwa sababu ya uwezo wa Mwenyezi Mungu. Na hiyo boma yetu tusikubali isabaratike. Hiyo nyumba tuisikilie.
Deputy President 100% ameunga mkono our president, na ningependa kusema kwamba serikali ya Kenya Kwanza haitagawanyika hata kamwe.
Ningeomba mkiwa na rais, muite vijana wetu, muite watu ya chama yetu, tuingie kwa nyumba moja, tuingie kwa hema, tuite mkutano wa wajumbe wa UDA, tutengeneze nyumba yetu mahali iko makosa kidogo kidogo.
The DP also launched a market in Madharu. Abdiaziz Hashim for Sunday Express.
Thank you, Abdiaziz. A joint security team consisting of officers from the GSU, AP and the KDF has deployed 5 armed personnel carriers to enhance aerial surveillance in tracking down bandits who shot at a KDF officer and a woman in Baringo North on Saturday. Yesterday, the KDF team and NPR successfully recovered 29 goats. Tension still remains high, with shopping centers closed. About 20 schools have also been closed following the attack.
Luruk area in Baringo County. A seemingly deserted area following a morning banditry incident that has left one KDF officer and a woman nursing serious injuries. Locals that witnessed the incident say the bandits came in around 8 a.m. in the morning in large numbers and made away with over 140 goats belonging to 8 families before the Kenya Defence Forces responded.
Alianzia na boma ya ndugu yangu mkubwa, ndio akateremuka yangu, ndio akafungia mama nyumba na watoto walitoroka, mpaka saa hizi sijapata watoto 3.
Gari ya jeshi iliingia, wakapigana na wao, mpaka nasikia hata kuna askari mmoja amepigwa risasi.
KDF responded with an aerial attack, deploying 3 choppers, 2 to drive the bandits from their hideouts and 1 to airlift the injured. The affected residents call on the government to step up its efforts in restoring calmness in the area.
Hii kitu imekuwa disaster. Watu wanapikwa, saa ile imenyamaza, watu wanaambiwa rudi, alafu wanaanza kushambulia watu.
Na watoto hata sasa ukiambia waende shule hawana matumaini, wanasema tutasoma ya nini? So hii kitu imekuwa mbaya sana.
Most of the displaced persons had started coming back to the area. Meanwhile, over 100 athletes from pastoralist communities that are prone to banditry attacks and cattle rustling took part in a 50-kilometer race dubbed the Peace Ultra Marathon. The race traversed the counties of Meru, Laikipia and Isiolo to propagate peace and cohesion in the region.
Tunataka kuhusisha vijana wetu na wamama wetu katika mambo ya amani.
Yusuf Fall reporting for Sunday Express.
A section of Azimio leaders has faulted the government over its plan to push through with the Haiti mission, despite court's order halting the process. Leaders led by Wiper leader, that is Kalonzo Musyoka, said the government risked lawsuits for contempt of court.
Azimio leaders now say the government will be solely responsible for the fate of police officers deployed in Haiti mission. Speaking in Nairobi, the leaders say pushing through the mission, despite the court orders, the government risks being held in contempt for contravening the courts.
First of all, there must be a bilateral arrangement with an authority in Haiti able to sign, because there's a prime minister who flew in here, he never flew back. And that's when some documents were signed. There must be an authority able to sign bilateral agreements.
In sending our children to Haiti is unconstitutional, it is illegal, and we stand opposed to it.
The church joining the fray.
Tukituma askari wetu kwenda kulinda nje ya Haiti na kuwapatia hawa amani, kama sisi kuna sehemu zetu ambazo hazina amani. Tunaomba ya kwamba tunapofanya hiyo basi tuhakikishe nyumbani ni salama, ndio tukue mfano mzuri hata kimataifa.
The Azimio leaders have in the meantime faulted the recent tour by the president to the United States of America amid reactions from Kenyans over the cost implications on the state visit.
These are some of the things that we expect leaders to speak openly and be truthful about this thing. And then let Kenyans then judge which is cheaper. But it is good that President Ruto has responded to that concern by Kenyans. And because he has, let all the facts be laid bare so that the truth will be known to Kenyans.
You pay 200 million shillings to fly out. Unatoa chakula kwa watoto hawa ambao hawana hata wazazi, wengine ni wasigo parents, na unatumia zile pesa kupanda ndege. We need this voice of the voiceless.
The government allied parties defending the USA trip.
The trip has brought a lot of goodies for this country. Let us be honest. It's good to critique. It's good to have opposition in government so that the government of the day is put to check. But the truth must always be said. Imagine of dwelling of Mombasa-Nairobi highway. That in itself has immense impact on the economy of this country.
For Sunday Express, I'm Gladys
Mungai reporting there. The government is employing one government, one approach in dealing with the aftermath of floods which affected many counties across the country. The Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of East African Region, Arid and Semi-Arid Land, that is Penina Malonza, said the loss of about 320 Kenyans due to floods and leaving many displaced and homeless was regrettable. In the meantime, a section of residents in Gataka area in Kajiado County are calling on the county and national government to assist in getting alternative means of transport after the road connecting to their homes was cut off by the heavy downpour.
The government is currently putting measures in place to address the effects of floods that claimed many lives and displaced many families. East African Region and ASAL Cabinet Secretary Penina Malonza says that all government agencies assisted by well-wishers had come together to address the impact of the heavy rains to ensure that all victims get the necessary help.
The most affected county in the nation, actually, as it stands out in terms of camps, is Tana River County, that has been affected not because it's raining down there, but because of the waters from the islands and also the spilling that has happened in our Seven Forks dams.
We would like to call upon the President to expedite the process of completing this TOT project, including also the Thwaken Dam and other projects the former regime initiated in this region.
In the meantime, a section of residents in Gataka area in Kajiado County is calling on the county and national government to assist in getting alternative means of transport after the road connecting to their homes was cut off by the heavy downpour.
This water has resulted from the rainwater, but more so because of poor drainage system along Gataka Road. See, when it was tarmacked, they did not put a drainage system.
We have so many residents here. We have institutions, schools, churches, and so many people are staying here. So we need to get it back into a usable state.
The residents have been forced to construct a makeshift bridge to enable them cross the road largely occupied by the flood waters.
Nafanya kazi hapa wando transporta watu kwenda kanisa. Imetu affect sana because njia haipatikani.
It's a disaster which we didn't expect, and we are hoping that soon our road will be brought back into usable state.
They say the submerged area is now posing risk to children and the locals at large.
So vile iko open hivi, watoto wengi wanaona kama wanaweza enda kuogelea. Na kwenda kuogelea pale, mtoto kabla hatujasikia lolote libaya, ni heri serikali wakuje wenyewe.
We have suffered a lot as the community of this area. We had, especially when it was raining, and we had no access at all.
From far you will tend to imagine that this is a lake or a dam, but that is not the case. This is the Mother Nature's wrath, resulting to the road being cut off and the church submerged. They are now calling on the county government to intervene and salvage the situation. Timothy Kipnoso.
Thank you, Timothy Kipnoso. Now, the government is pursuing a public-private partnership to facilitate the construction of the stalled Koru Soin multi-purpose dam. Information, Communication and the Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary, that is Eliud Owalo, while speaking in Kisumu, said inadequate resources in the country has led to the re-engineering of the project's model, as Wycliffe Okech now reports.
We better be ready early enough.
For Sunday Express from Kisumu County, I am Wycliffe Okech.
Well, the role of the male figure in the family setup took center stage during the Catholic Men Association music competition held at St. Martin, Diaspora Karuri, and that is in Kiambu County. During the contest, men were challenged to take up their role within the family unit. St. Stephen Gashie Parish emerged the winner during this year's music competition after scoring 89 points, while Holy Family Mogomo Parish were the runners-up in a close contest in which they garnered 88 points.
The sound of music. These were the sights and sounds as Catholic Men Association members from 10 parishes in Kiambu Dinari came together to compete during this year's music festival. It was a powerful display of their vocals as they each clamored to win the title. During the event, men were also challenged to team up and work together to protect the family unit and overcome the challenges that affect them in the society, especially economically.
Umekaa hapo na upweke na shida zako, tokelezea kwa wanaume. Shida zako tokuwa half solved wakati unahusiana na wao. Kubuka sio kuiba tu. Kutoka hapa sisi tunaenda kukula pamoja. Tutacheka, tufurahie. Kwa hivyo sio vizuri wewe mwanaume ukiwa kwa nyumbani ukae peke yako. Kuja shirikiana na wanaume wengine na utapata furaha.
Teacher Lawrence Njuguna alias Mwalimu Kinyozi hailed the men for embracing the challenge and turning up in their numbers for the competition, saying it doubled up as an opportunity to evangelize through music.
Kufunza wazee si kazi rahisi, kuwafunza kwa sababu saa zingine unafunza mzazi wako na wazee ndio wanakuaga na mamlaka, mambo mingi, ndio wenye boma, so kuwafunza inakuanga kazi ngumu.
According to them, the coming together of men was a step in the right direction in encouraging men to work together.
We have seen men relax their mind, looking at life positively, because you need to sit down to learn. You cannot learn when you are not sober, and that is what we are saying.
Men coordinating the Archdiocese of Nairobi, Joshua Njoroge Mburu, lauded the Archbishop of Nairobi, Philip Anyolo, for the effort in bringing men together as a form of team building.
The technical part of this in the song is quite challenging. And it was put that intentionally because life is also very challenging for men. And then when you are challenged by the song and you quit, what about when you are challenged by a family issue or a child or a parenting issue? The society is not kind to so many things, and we are teaching and training men that despite the hardship of the journey, you must rise and move on.
St. Stephen Gashie Parish emerged the winner with 89 points, while Holy Family Mugumo was second with 88 points. All Saints Riara Parish was third with 87 points.
A section of religious leaders are calling for the empowerment of the boy child, who they say is being disenfranchised in the wake of unemployment opportunities. Speaking during the commissioning of Presbyterian Church Men Fellowship at PCA Ongata Rongai Chapel, that is in Kajiado County, the clergy called on the government to address the issues affecting the boy child, saying most of them are in a state of hopelessness. They attributed rising cases of crime to the challenge of unemployment and drug abuse among the youth.
Kuna wakati jamii ilipendelea sana upande wa mtoto wa kike na mtoto wa kijana akasahaulika. Na kwa hivyo wababa wamechukua jukumu la kunacha na kumenta hawa vijana. Tunapinga mambo mengine ambayo yanaathiri wanaume kama madawa ya kulevya, ulevi, na hasa wale ambao wamekubwa na mambo hayo ya ulevi na madawa ya kulevya. Si ati wanafanya hivyo kwa sababu ni wanaume, kwa sababu wanapenda. Wakati mwingi wanajipata kwa shida zile kwa sababu wametelekezwa kwa jamii.
Huwa tunaweza kuwafundisha mambo mengi, mambo ya entrepreneurship through the mentorship. Tuna pia jobs opportunities ambazo tunafanya networking, pahali watu sisi tunafanya kazi, tunaweza kuwaelekeza na hata kuwaelekeza jinsi gani ya kuweza kufanya application ziwe successful na waweze kupata kazi.
Very nice experience. Personally, I was being admission today, and I also want to call upon so many young men around here and also countrywide that they should come forward. They should stand as the men that they are supposed to be, because in future they are going to be the leaders of the society.
There is need to empower women economically to reduce poverty rates in the country. While addressing United Nations Women in Nairobi, Principal Secretary in the State Department of Gender, that is Anne Wangombe, said empowering women will unlock their full potential and bridge the inequality gap that threatens to leave half of the country's population in poverty.
Despite global commitments to gender equality and empowerment of women and girls, significant gaps persist in efforts to advance women's economic empowerment.
And we cannot talk about gender equality without addressing the stubborn gender pay gap, where in East and Southern Africa, women in the labor market earn 81 cents for every dollar earned by men.
Addressing these challenges needs increasing investments to support women.
We need to focus on increasing investments in much-needed basic infrastructure, including accessible and affordable water and sanitation facilities and clean energy, which can really boost women and girls' health and their participation in employment, in education, and help reduce their unpaid care burden.
Principal Secretary, State Department of Gender Anne Wangombe says empowering women will help reduce poverty rate in the country.
We note, therefore, the need for continued investment in programs and initiatives that address underlying structural barriers to women's economic empowerment.
The goal is to create millions of decent jobs for women in the care sector and facilitate the economic participation more broadly, including in high-paying male-dominated sectors.
In transforming care systems, we know we could create up to 300 million new jobs by 2035 if we have targeted investments in the care sector.
UN Women partners with the African Development Bank Group to launch women's economic empowerment strategy that will address the challenges women go through economically.
We are trying to see what we can do to reduce the overall cost of lending to women businesses.
Imagine a scenario where the name on your national identity card does not match your physical gender attributes. Well, this is the predicament Frank Robert Kibagende faced until he managed to change the details on the ID card, including dropping the name Francisca Kwamboka and changing the gender marker from female to male. Sheila Yogo with the story.
This person needs to make sure that even teachers, they understand what that means.
Meet Frankie Robert Kibagendi, an intersex who was assigned a sex identity through surgery.
At that time, they did what we call intersex gender mutation. That's a small process of which parents, through the guidance of the doctors, do some surgeries to correct. So that's what they did, and they gave me Francisca Kwamboka Kibagende.
A name that subjected him to scrutiny whenever he needed services.
Now giving your ID, reading Francisca Kwamboka Kibagende, and the person people seeing is very different. It's a man.
Such is the challenge that intersex persons face.
You can't open an M-Pesa number if you don't have your ID. If you want to buy any property, you must use your ID.
An intersex person is born with a combination of male and female biological traits.
Mimi ni mtu mzima, nimefikisha 18 na ndio maana niko na ID. Mbona sasa niibe ID ya mtu mwingine? Ona sasa hapa ndipo namwambia hivi, this is my name. Sisi chukua hata kama sasa hata ukienda kusema unitia kwa askari, kwa sababu pia askari kwanza atakushika juu atashangaa Nancy. Na unakaa kijana.
With the amendment of Children's Act 2022 to recognize the existence of intersex children and the need for proper documentation and protection just like any other child, Kwamboka decided to change the narrative, and the journey to change details on the ID began.
And that helped me to change my birth certificate from Francisca Kwamboka Kibagende to Frank Robert Kibagende.
But it was not a rosy affair.
And some officers, they were like, we have been doing changes, but not change of sex, but change of names. But as a person, I was after changing of my names and changing of my sex in that sex mark, in that document.
It was a journey that involved creating awareness.
I went to the other office whereby the entire team knew completely nothing about intersex persons. So I started by creating awareness, advocating for the rights of intersex persons in that office. In those offices, still we treat intersex persons as a new thing. And also we are being given specific officers in those offices to handle intersex work or intersex persons.
Intersex persons being categorized under the LGBTQ plus body makes it harder for intersex persons to enjoy their rights.
They confuse a lot intersex persons with the trans persons. But again, it was my responsibility to make sure that we give them the clear information and the difference between the intersex persons and transgender. And also some other members, they talk about LGBT and intersex. So there's a lot of misinformation outside there.
After back and forth journey, Kibagende managed to change the name from Francisca Kwamboka Kibagende to Frankie Robert Kibagende.
I was very happy than any day in my life. I'm happiest person ever in this world.
In 2023, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights drafted a bill that is yet to be tabled in Parliament. Under Part 2 of the draft, an intersex person may at any time apply to the Registrar of Persons to amend the sex marker on their ID cards.
If a corrective surgery was done and it was a wrong one, the manifestation of the sex has now taken a different form, then this person should be able to have their documentation, changed. So it's one of the provisions in the draft bill that we have made.
Article 12 of the Kenyan Constitution says every Kenyan is entitled to an identification document, including a passport and a national identity card. The national identity card is one of the crucial documents that one needs to access services. The intersex persons of Kenya continue to face discrimination, harassment, and even denied some of the services because they lack the eye marker or their preferred sex identity on their ID cards. Sheila Kayaroyogo reporting for KBC in Nairobi.
Thank you, Sheila, for that elaborate story. We now look at sports, where Beatrice Chebet, she broke the world record on her way to an outstanding 10,000 meters victory at the Prefontaine Classic Diamond League meeting in Eugene, that is in the United States, and guaranteeing her a place at the Paris Olympic Games in July. Daniel Matieko won the men's 10,000 meters. Here are the details.
Beatrice Chebet smashed the 10,000 meters world record at last night's Eugene Diamond League in the United States. Chebet did not just break the world record, but became the first female athlete to finish the 25-lap race in under 29 minutes, clocking 28 minutes 54.14 seconds, slashing almost 5 minutes from her personal best time. She finished way ahead of Tega Iguda of Ethiopia, who was second 11 seconds behind, while Lilian Kasaid settled for third position.
Here she comes! This is the fastest women's 10,000 meters you have ever seen. Ladies and gentlemen, the world record has gone!
Daniel Mateiko led a string of Kenyan athletes in the men's race as they all struggled for a Paris Olympic ticket. Mateiko won in 26 minutes 50.81 seconds, ahead of Nicholas Kipkorir and Bernard Kibet, who were the other two on the podium. Beatrice Chepkoech and Faith Cherotich finished second and third respectively in the 3,000-meter steeplechase, won by Uganda's Peruth Chemutai. The Diamond League Series heads to Oslo for the 6th leg on 30th of May.
That's where we end the news this morning. But Good Morning Kenya still continues. My colleagues, that is Mike Migwe and Vivian Degwar, are in studio. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good morning
Marie.
to you, Marie. How are you?
We are fine.
Doing well.
Yeah.
Yes, I immediately started with the news in the morning.
Yes.
But yes, here we are.
Well, it's good to have a little bit of a change when it comes to starting the show.
Exactly.
But of course, this is Good Morning Kenya, and that is how we do things. We don't have to stick to the normalcy, but of course there's a lot that we need to talk about, and today we'll be talking about agriculture and food security, given that agriculture is one of the things that are captured in the bottom-up economic bottom-up agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government. So we'll be talking about it in detail, and in studio I'll be joined by the Permanent Secretary, State Department of Livestock in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development. That is Honorable Jonathan Mweke. That is the conversation we are about to have. So don't you go too far. About to get into it in just a little bit. In the meantime,
yes.
Fan wa Man U hapa anaitwa Vivian.
Yeah, I was wondering, why do you want to overlook the fact that Manchester United actually got to win the FA Cup?
You have the bragging
we
rights.
beat Manchester City, over the weekend to win that cup, and we cannot overlook that. There is no way we are overlooking that. Congratulations to all my fellow Manchester United fans.
There's something, Mike, that there's a phrase.
Yeah.
Spectators are expensive. You'd imagine the spectators, the people who are really like, wanashangilia. It's like they were in the pitch doing everything. So like Vivian is owning it.
You know, fans are more invested in the game, I think,
Yes.
than the players themselves.
Oh, really?
Hey.
Well, not really, but yes, we are invested in the game. And,
Feelings.
you know, we've been losing, and everyone has been on our neck for that.
Yeah.
So when we win, please allow us the bragging rights.
Well,
we have all the bragging rights. And one more time, I want to congratulate Beatrice Chebet for clinching, you know, that 10,000 meter race, and also breaking the world record, as well as also becoming the first woman in history to break the 29 minutes record on track. So that's a really big deal for the country. Congratulations to her. Well, that aside, today being a Monday, we're going to be having Family Check, and on Family Check today, we will be looking at the purpose of marriage, and I will be joined by one Apostle Helen rather. You definitely want to stay in for that conversation later on the program from around 8:45. Marie?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting conversation, so stay tuned. Mike and Vivian have already given you a lineup of what they're preparing for you. From me, it's a wrap. Until next time, my name is Marie Yambo.
I never joke around with serious agendas. Beautiful. Eh? Atito, you mean even today is beautiful today?
What full story? Do you think you will get away with this? Do you know me?
What is wrong with you guys? Hey, you want Musemme? Why can't you just mind your own businesses? And of course, this woman is Araya.
Ma'alimu Balis, we just did our job.
Your job is also to use your medulla oblongata.
Can't you people stay without drama for 1 month? Just 1 month, eh? Must I keep up cleaning up your messes?
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who's the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevatishwa.
Sio wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
Mizimu imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwende Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Ukiva hakuna atakayekusumbua.
But I'm warning you because he may come back here at any time.
He can come back whenever he pleases. I'm not afraid of him.
No, don't look for trouble, kid. You must know that an enemy like Olegario Montoya is not easy at all.
I am a serious person too, Mr. Alhure. And I'm going to check this folder very carefully. And if everything is the way you say, I will give you your check.
The problem is that my life is at risk here, dear counselor.
Enough with this stupidity. Go back to your house.
You can't tell me what I have to do. And you can't brush me away. Alonso? Alonso, how can you say that I'm lying to her face after all that we've lived through together?
That is not true.
You are a traitor.
Las Bandidas.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with our music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
Musa Sirma was born on July 17, 1961. He went to Kambimoy Primary School from 1969 to 1975 and Baringo High School for his O-level and later Njoro Boys High School for the A-level education. He later joined Egerton College, now Egerton University, for a diploma course in forestry where he graduated with a distinction. He then acquired a Bachelor of Science degree in Environmental Science from Mount Kenya University between 2013 to 2016. After college, from 1986 to 1997, he was employed as a district forest officer. It was while in this position between the late 1980s and mid-1990s that he owned a sawmill in the Mumberes area of Eldama Ravine, a clear conflict of interest for the man charged with the responsibility of preserving forests. He threw his heart in the ring for the new Eldama Ravine constituency and won on a KANU ticket in the 1997 general election. From 2010 to 2013, Sirma was appointed Minister for East Africa Cooperation. His appointment as Minister for East African Community in the dying days of the Government of National Unity under President Mwai Kibaki and Prime Minister Raila Odinga did not surprise many. In 2013, he tried to regain his old constituency seat on an ODM ticket but failed to stem the Ruto-led United Republican Party URP wave that was sweeping through the Rift Valley. In the 2017 elections, Sirma vied for the dominant Jubilee Party ticket but lost in the primaries. He then contested the seat as an independent candidate using the symbol of a buffalo, his clan's totem. He lost again. Not content with the results, he filed a petition to overturn the outcome, citing irregularities in the polls. After losing the petition and subsequent appeals, he took a low profile until July 2019, when he surfaced and declared that he had ditched DP Ruto and was joining KANU to support the former president's youngest son. Ironically, it was Sirma who hosted a big rally in 2006 that installed Ruto as a Kalenjin spokesman and blessed him through the famous Eldamaravine Declaration to seek the highest office in the land through ODM. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet. Geoffrey Mapukori Parpai attended DEB Loitoktok Primary School and then Olkedrado Secondary School before joining the Kenya Institute of Administration, later renamed Kenya School of Government. An accountant by training, Parpai had in 1982 become clerk of the Town Council of Olkedrado, where he worked until 1992, when he entered competitive politics. Aged 35, Parpai was working as a clerk to the Town Council of Olkedrado. If he was to have any chances of making it in Kajiado politics, Parpai realized he needed to align himself with either of the two most powerful Maasai political figures in Kajiado. That included John Keane, who was in the Democratic Party of Kenya, headed by former Vice President Mwai Kibaki, or Professor George Saitoti, who was the Vice President, and in the Kenya African National Union KANU, headed by President Daniel Arap Moi. Parpai contested the Kajiado South parliamentary seat in 1992 on a DP ticket, but lost to KANU's party candidate Philip Lampat Singaru. Despite Parpai's losing, it was clear the newly formed Democratic Party had stamped its authority in the Maasai land, and so was its presidential candidate Mwai Kibaki. Parpai had also emerged as a leader to watch in Kajiado politics and earned the respect of the main players in the party. During the 1997 campaigns, Parpai organized major rallies for the Democratic Party in Kajiado, and he won the Kajiado South seat by polling 13,798 votes against Singaru's 10,232. However, prior to the elections, Parpai had defected from DP to KANU, albeit for a short time, hoping to co-sign Singaru to political oblivion in the party primaries. And he almost succeeded, being declared the winner in the KANU nominations by the returning officer after garnering 8,884 votes to Singaru's 8,659 and Oloitiptip 2,500. But these results were nullified following demonstrations and an ultimatum issued by Singaru, who threatened to defect to the opposition. KANU Secretary General Joseph Kemotho and Vice President Saitoti convinced President Moi that supporting Singaru would save the party in Kajiado. So in the repeat nomination exercise, Parpai's papers were rejected, with KANU arguing that he failed the language proficiency test. Parpai defected back to DP, and after convincing the electorate that KANU had interfered with KANU nominations, he won the Kajiado South seat. Parpai distinguished himself as a defender of Maasai rights both inside and outside the parliament. In parliament and as a member of DP, he was always pushing for the elevation of Loitoktok division to sub-district status. He would also help his close friends take up leadership positions in group ranches, which was necessary in the consolidation of power. In the run-up to the 2002 general election, Parpai joined the National Rainbow Coalition, waved together with Professor Saitoti and members of the Liberal Democratic Party, who had dissolved a merger with KANU to protest President Moi's choice of relative newcomer Uhuru Kenyatta as his successor. It was this group that joined Kibaki, Charity Ngilu and Kijana Wamalwa to form NAC, the outfit that toppled KANU. Shortly after, he was appointed Minister of State in charge of personnel management. His assistant minister was Maurice Dzoro, the MP for Kaloleni. But just months after swearing in, the minister was taken ill and rushed to a Nairobi hospital where he was diagnosed with cancer. His death in August 2003 understandably destabilized Kibaki's political strength in Kajiado. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
Indeed. Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike Migwe, and today we are talking matters agriculture. You know, Madaraka Day is coming up, and it's themed agriculture and food security. It's happening this Saturday, and to help me with this conversation in studio, I'm joined by Principal Secretary in the Ministry or State Department for Livestock in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock, Honorable Jonathan Mweke. Karibu sana.
Asante sana, Mike.
How is your morning coming along?
My morning is great.
Yes.
Especially after yesterday, Kenya in the sports, you saw
oh yeah,
Diana Chebet, Beatrice Chebet,
yes,
won the 10,000 meters.
Yes.
Broke a world record.
Yes.
First woman to run under 29 seconds.
Yes.
And Daniel also won the men's race,
yeah,
though not many people are talking about that.
Yeah.
And my friend Ferdinand Omanyala came a close second in the 100 meters. So
yeah,
Kenya was really on top of the world.
Yeah.
And that has made my morning very, very good.
That is our pride.
Yes, yes it is.
Well, let's get into it right now. And as agriculture is one of the things that are captured in the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, and according to a report that was released last week by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, agriculture played a big role in the economic growth of the country. What do you think about that?
We weren't surprised because the bottom-up economic transformation agenda was very well thought out. It was deliberate to bring this kind of results.
Yeah.
You will note before the Kenya Kwanza government came in, agriculture was growing at minus 2.3%. And last year, after the very deliberate interventions of policies of our president, then we came up to almost 7.9%. This is because if you look at our priority value chains in the economic transformation agenda, out of the 9 of them, 6 of them are agriculture. You know, we have tea, we have rice, we have leather, we have dairy, we have cotton, we have edible oils, and it was very deliberate just to pick those value chains as they were a low-hanging fruit for rapid economic development, targeting the very bottom of the pyramid. So we picked the value chains, put together some interventions, such as identifying where our farmers are. So we did farmer registration. Almost 6.9 million farmers now are registered from just about, I think there were 400,000 before then. So now we know who our farmers are, where they are, the amount of land they have, what are they farming, and that data just gives government a lot of insights to make good decisions that will now spur economic growth. So what we saw in the economic survey 2023, that Kenya's economy has stabilized, is on an upward trend, and is driven or powered by agriculture, was a very, very deliberate result of the interventions made by the Kenya Kwanza government.
Yes. It also indicated that there was a significant growth in terms of market dynamics, especially when it comes to maize, potatoes and cabbages. Are we seeing a case where agriculture now is resurging?
Yes, absolutely. You see, again, just talking about the economic transformation agenda, when you're looking at value chains, you really are looking at production, then throughout aggregation, value addition, and then market linkage. So what this government did different was they began looking at the value chain from the back, from the end. What does the market want? In what quantities? With what quality? So once you're able to look at the route to market and the market linkages, then you can work backwards to production. So now you're able to tell the farmer, listen, the market requires this product with this kind of quality, in these quantities, and consistently. Then you enable the farmer to produce what the market demands. And that's what creates the economic transformation.
Yes.
And that's why you're seeing now agriculture has really come back with a resurgence.
Well, we have experienced above average rains, and there were floods, and one of the things that areas that were affected was agriculture. We saw some crops being destroyed. What are we looking at in terms of food security owing to these floods?
Well, a big part of our docket, actually our main mandate, is food and nutrition security. That's why the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development exists, to ensure, number one, that we have enough food to feed our citizens. So that's food security. Of course, nutrition as well, security to make sure that it's not just food, but nutritious food for the well-being of our people. And then secondary comes the trade aspect of it. With all the interventions we've made, government has been set back a little bit by two shocks in the recent year. The first one was the El Nino, which of course caused for us a disaster. And government had now to reallocate money from its planned economic transformation agenda and initiatives to saving lives. And recently the floods have done the same. Nearly 300 people died, thousands displaced, property, infrastructure destroyed. And now government had to very quickly come together and pull money away from some of the economic agenda and the transformation agenda to now save lives of our citizens. For us in the agriculture sector, we were affected. A lot of crops were destroyed. We lost also quite some livestock. And under the leadership of the Deputy President, who's been running the Disaster Response Committee, a steering committee that myself and PS Rono and our minister sit on, we have come up with a plan in which we are now seeking budgetary approval just to help our farmers who are affected. So in the livestock sector, we are looking at restocking of animals that could have been lost so that the economic activity around livestock out with our livestock keepers can continue. And with the farms that were destroyed, we are looking at just assisting our farmers with some budgetary provision per acre of what was lost so that they can see if they can recover their crop. That will not just lead to saving potential lost livelihoods from an economic standpoint of our farmers, but also ensure that we are food secure.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's interventions that have been made by government.
Yes.
And I'm sure any time now, Cabinet is going to be able to approve those budgetary provisions.
Yes.
And we can go and give that aid to our people.
Talk about now the aspect, the general aspect of agriculture now in the whole context of a bottom-up economic agenda.
Well, like I said, there's about 9 value chains that we are tracking very closely, starting from route to market. Just recently, my minister, the Honorable Mithika Linturi, was in China looking for a market for coffee, and he came back with very positive results, which means with that, you will see higher production of coffee, you'll see more money going into the pockets of our farmers in terms of coffee, you'll see more value addition. People now processing coffee into finished products, which will be very good for us for export and also create very, very many jobs. And that's what we are doing throughout the specific value chains. In my side, for example, we have now just concluded what we are calling a route to market study on the meat value chain. So as PS for livestock, I now know very clearly where is the demand for our meat around the world. At what price should we be coming in so that we can be globally competitive? What quality is needed, in what quantities, and when are those quantities needed? For example, in the Middle East, you'll find during Ramadan or during Hajj or during Eid is when the quality goes up, the quantities go up. They want almost double our meat. So that helps us plan, and we go back to the farmers and tell them, okay, you need to start breeding at this point so that by the time Ramadan hits, we have enough product to send abroad. And that is what is transforming our industry. And now, based on really realizing what the market needs, we've come up with interventions as government in breed improvement. So we are running what we are calling a national breed improvement program, where we're going across the country to all livestock keepers and assisting them with good breeds through artificial insemination so that we can up their production and productivity of their livestock. It gives them more kilos on their goats and sheep and cows, gives them better quality, makes their meat reach maturity earlier. So instead of keeping a cow for 4 years before you sell it, now you can sell it at 18 months and it'll have achieved the growth rate or the weight that is needed. And it just gives so much more money to the farmer much quicker, and it serves the market. So doing these studies and looking at them scientifically and deliberately is very, very important for government for planning reasons. We've made great strides in the dairy sector. You saw in the economic review, dairy was found to be one of those value chains that have contributed to the tremendous growth we've seen in the agriculture value chain. And with that, we also just did the same thing. We found out what the market needs, and they're looking at higher quality value items, so such as yogurt and butter and ghee and chocolate. So now we've gone back to our farmers and we are telling them, listen, for us to be able to compete in this world where they want higher value dairy items, not just the white milk, you need to produce dairy of this quality or milk of this quality with this much butter content and this much protein in it. And our farmers have listened. So now we are moving from quantity-based pricing, where you're paid for the amount of milk you deliver, to quality-based pricing. So if your milk is at a certain quality, then you get more money for it.
And the aspect also of the diversification in terms of the products, dairy products that they are selling.
Yes, of course, that's the value addition that we are talking to. So our processors have responded, and now they're getting more quality milk from the farmer. That enables us now to not just compete in the milk market with milk and milk powder, but now we can compete in the yogurt market and the butter market and the ice cream and chocolate market, which again leads to manufacturing, creates jobs, and gives us an opportunity for export, which then gives us foreign exchange, and it lowers our cost of living.
Yes.
So quite some interventions being made in some of those sectors. The same is going on with edible oils. After fuel, Mike, edible oils is the second largest import Yeah, so we lose quite a lot of foreign exchange bringing in edible oils. But through the interventions now of sunflower and palm trees that we are using now to plant, especially on the outskirts, the western side of the country. A lot of it is going on in Homa Bay and in Busia. We now can be able to make our own edible oils. So again, it creates jobs, it lowers our cost of living because we don't have to import it, and it really creates very rapid economic growth quite quickly.
Absolutely. We continue with this conversation in just a little bit. Don't go too far. Good Morning Kenya takes a short break.
I never joke around with serious agendas. Beautiful. Eh? Atito, you mean even today is beautiful today?
What full story? Do you think you will get away with this? Do you know me?
What is wrong with you guys? Hey, you want Musenne? Why can't you just mind your own businesses? And of course, this woman is Araya.
Ma'alimu Balis, we just did our job.
Your job is also to use your medulla oblongata.
Can't you people stay without drama for 1 month? Just 1 month, eh? Masai, keep up cleaning up your messes.
Ulisapurai nini na unaitwache?
Kainyu.
Iyo sasa ndio mbaya zaidi. Kwa nasikia ni kama anaenda kwa taote na
Upon a time, lazima nifungue hoteli.
Have you ever loved?
Mimi anagwanga chief. Bichega unagaa sura mbaya.
Sasa hii pombe mama ya hii hata sio kupenda kwangu.
Akakushika mdomo hivi, akakumiminia hivi. Mwedi wale tunaita Paralympic.
Sipendi sikari mingi. Kijiko ine tu.
Mimi anajua kupiga basto. Kwa leo, pika Reverend.
Always a pleasure to have you on board. We are talking about agriculture and food security, and one of the things we are talking about is about dairy farming. And PS, one of the things I would want you to talk about is the measures that were enacted by the Livestock Bill 2023. How has it impacted dairy farming so far?
The Livestock Bill 2023, what that does, it just really modernized the way we look at our livestock sector. Our livestock sector traditionally has not been commercialized. It's been seen as something more of a pastoralist thing and a cultural thing. And no serious government investment previously in previous governments have been made in the livestock sector. With this era of ours, with our economic transformation agenda, right from the bottom up, livestock is one of those areas that was seen as a priority area. So in the top priority value chains, out of the 9 of them, dairy and leather comes very strongly from the livestock sector. And for us to be able to do that, we needed to regulate a few things within the livestock sector. And some of the gains the livestock bill has done are threefold. Number one, we are regulating the area of livestock feed and feeds, and also the area of livestock professionals, so that we can make sure that the people who are going out there as extension workers, serving our livestock farmers, are known, are registered, and are competent, so that they can advise our livestock farmers to produce exactly what is needed by the market. And for that to happen, we'll be regulating livestock paraprofessionals, professionals and paraprofessionals, those who deal with feed, those who deal with artificial insemination, which is genetics, even those who deal with animal health and animal husbandry, so that we can register them, we can ensure that they are trained and they have the knowledge to advise our livestock farmers on the best way to produce quality livestock for the market. And that again, of course, puts money in the pockets of our farmers. The second thing the livestock bill does is it anchors in law our training institutions. We have about 8 training institutions. There's the Meat Training Institute, the Dairy Training Institute, the Livestock Training Institute, many of them. We have the AHITIs, which is the Animal Health and Industry Training Institutions, which ensure that the professionals we are training in this market can go out and work out in the industry. And they've previously not been anchored properly in law, so the livestock bill does that. The third thing that is of significance that the livestock bill does is that it creates what we are calling a livestock marketing council. It will be a council that will be primarily private sector led, that helps with the market dynamics around livestock value chains. There's about 11 livestock value chains. I know we keep talking about 3 in terms of the priority value chains, which is the dairy, the meat value chain, and the leather value chain. But you know, we have apiculture, honey, we have the pigs, we have the rabbits, we have the donkeys, we have the poultry, and we have several other value chains within the livestock sector. And what this does is it ensures that we are able to do aggregation properly, we are able to do value addition on our products properly, and we're able to find that linkage to market so that we can really commercialize our livestock sector and ensure that we create a brand. Just like in tea, we've created a tea brand. We want to create a livestock brand for our livestock products around the world, so that people around the world can really know that Kenya has good meat, and Kenya has good honey, and Kenya has good milk, and it just makes our products very competitively globally. So the Livestock Marketing Council will be integral in that, in just making sure that it brings all the stakeholders together and we begin marketing our livestock products as a team of all stakeholders instead of incoherently and individually. So that's what the livestock bill does. For the dairy industry, Mike, to answer your question, dairy has been governed by the Dairy Act 1959. So a lot of reform needs to be done with the same, because we've been governed by a very outdated act. So we are now in the process of putting together a dairy bill. It has gone through public participation. The bill is industry-led, so it's led by the stakeholders in the private sector, primarily on what they'd like to see the dairy industry look like. We are now just waiting to do a national validation to validate all we found during public participation, after which we will send this bill to cabinet and onward to parliament for passing. A main part of this dairy bill will introduce what we are calling quality-based payments, like I spoke about a little earlier, where we will be paying the farmer based on the quality of milk they provide. And that gives our farmers incentives of just upping their game and producing quality milk. It will also regulate our dairy products to ensure that our milk is safe, has very low bacteria, so that we can get rid of antimicrobial resistance, and also has almost no aflatoxin, which has been an issue with our milk. So as we are running safer milk campaigns and ensuring that our Kenya Dairy Board is on the ground making sure that our milk is safe, we also want to anchor it in law and give the Kenya Dairy Board, a little more powers to be able to regulate the milk industry, and that's the highlight really of our dairy bill. So a lot of reforms going on in the dairy sector.
Yes.
And as PS, I'm quite happy because we're beginning to see the results on the economic activity dairy is creating right at the ground to our bottom-up farmers.
What about the impact of the livestock insurance? What's the objective and how are farmers taking it?
Livestock insurance is an intervention to mitigate the effects of drought. Mike, you know, just 2 seasons ago, we went through the worst drought in almost 40 years. And in that drought, we lost approximately 2.5 million herds of cattle, worth almost 500 billion shillings. I mean, that's a big hit to our economy. I'm aware of families, especially up north in our arid areas, whose entire livelihood was lost. They used their livestock as their wealth, and they lost all their livestock, and those families now have moved from being very stable families to families that cannot feed themselves, families that cannot pay school fees for their children, and the situation is very, very dire. So livestock insurance is an intervention in which we are creating resilience to drought. So we're encouraging our farmers, listen, why don't you register for livestock insurance? We will put you into a system so that we can ensure that you're inside the financial inclusion of our country. That gives you now access to credit for inputs such as medicine, inputs such as food in the event of a drought. And the livestock insurance is really not to insure the farmer towards the death of an animal. It's to keep the animal alive. And for them to do that, that's why we're saying we need now to bring them into our financial system. So we're enticing our farmers when they buy insurance. We make sure they open an account. We give them some savings bonus into that account to ensure that once the drought hits, the farmer or the livestock keeper can go somewhere, has a history of banking in a financial system, and can now be able to get a facility to buy food, to buy medicine, and to take care of their animals that will see that animal live throughout the drought. So far, we had targeted by year 2, which is where we are now, to have by June registered 50,000 farmers on livestock insurance, 25,000 per year. We have surpassed that target by almost 3. We've now registered almost 140,000 against our target of 50,000. So it's something that's being taken very positively. And just 2 weeks ago, I was out in my home county, Kitui, launching the same. And I've seen the response, even in Kitui, for livestock insurance is quite overwhelming. So it's a product that the farmers are really finding helpful.
It's rolled out in all the 47 counties?
It's rolled out in the 21 arid and semi-arid counties. So it really just focuses on the counties that have prone to extreme drought during the dry seasons.
What about farmers in other counties who are also into livestock farming and husbandry?
Well, they can be able to register commercially for livestock insurance because we have local insurance countries that do that. But this is a government subsidy where we are actually subsidizing the insurance for the first year for 80%. And then second year, 60%. It's a 5-year program so that by the end of the 5 years, our farmers are empowered enough and have now created a sustainable model through which they can now offtake their animals during the drought season because they're alive and they're not dead. And by year 5 now, the farmers should be able to do this on their own without any government support.
Yes.
So that's
let's look at the tea subsector.
Yes.
Well, it also contributes to around 2% to the GDP and 21% to the total export earnings. How has the reforms within this sector impacted the small-scale farmer so far?
Excuse me. Our intervention on focusing on the tea industry as one of our top exports in this country especially, again, the fertilizer program, which the subsidy fertilizer program that has been extremely successful. We've seen now almost 8-point-something million farmers gain from fertilizer. Just this season of the long rains, about almost 4 million farmers have been able to get the subsidized fertilizer, of which we saw tremendous impact in last year on the same. You know, Mike, you've seen the price of unga has almost come down by half. It's because of that fertilizer subsidy that was able to really increase productivity. And the tea sector was not left behind with that productivity. We were able to actually increase our production for tea significantly from about 138 metric tons to about 180. 138 billion shillings to 180 billion shillings worth of tea export in the last year. So tea has quite grown. The farmer was actually not left behind because the farmer also increased their tea earnings from around 52 shillings that they were earning to about 59 shillings per kilogram. So the farmer also really benefited from this program on tea. So from where I sit, the tea is doing quite well.
But also farmers complain on late payments, and also some are saying they are yet to experience the effects of prices. What do you say about that? Low payments and late disbursement of the payout. And also, it applies also in the coffee sector. The same applies in the coffee sector.
Well, the government interventions have just ensured that we have higher productivity, and because of creating that market for the product, our farmers get a higher price. But the sector is also governed through other structures such as cooperatives, and you will find different cooperatives have different governance structures. For example, Cooperative A might charge a higher administrative fee than Cooperative B. So there are some cooperatives that might pay on a monthly basis, others might pay on a 3-month basis, others might pay a bonus, others might not pay a bonus. So it's the governance structures of the cooperatives that will determine how the tea farmer benefits from this. I'm aware that the Ministry of Cooperatives is also very focused in regulating the governance of cooperatives to ensure that our farmers are not exploited by the cooperatives, are not exploited by the management of the cooperatives, that the cooperatives don't take all the benefit of the good market government has found, of the good yield government has been able to enable to the detriment of the farmer, so that the farmer who's producing actually gets the benefit and not somebody else down the value chain. So I'm aware of those reforms within the cooperative sector, and I am sure sooner than later our cooperatives will be well governed to the benefit of our farmers.
There's the front page of the Daily Nation today is talking about how tea farmers have lost 600 million. What's your reaction to that?
Yes, I saw that headline actually when I was on my way here this morning. But if you read, that's what the headline says. And the headline has been designed to make it look like they have lost through their production. But if you go into the story, you'll find out the alleged losses are not because of production issues, are not because of pricing issues, are because of mismanagement of the farmers' money by their cooperatives, which is just what I mentioned right now. So I think just stronger governance within the cooperatives and stronger regulation by government, which could be done through legislation, would solve that problem to make sure that farmers don't make all this money and then the money is embezzled by their cooperatives. Then that makes the farmer become the loser while they've done the hard work of producing.
Yes. The aspect of access to financing and agriculture, and access to credit for small-scale farmers, it's important. How is it being utilized? Are farmers utilizing this, or is it available?
Yes, absolutely. The flagship of this government was the Hustler Fund. And the Hustler Fund has been extremely successful. There's tens of billions of shillings that have been circulating around the Hustler Fund. And as financial inclusion was being separated last, I think it was Jamhuri Day, it was announced that the Hustler Fund now will also be available to groups. From 50,000 to almost 1 million shillings. And that has also been extremely successful. So we can have our farmers come together as groups or cooperatives and use the Hustler Fund to ensure that they can have very, very concessional lending to be able to increase their productivity, pay for their inputs, and so on and so forth. We also have the Agricultural Finance Corporation, which is in our Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, in which the President pronounced himself that he was going to ensure that we get budgetary provision for onward lending to our farmer, increase fivefold from 2 billion shillings to 10 billion shillings. Again, that is a big game changer in just ensuring that our farmers get access to financing so that they can produce more. And producing more, Mike, just doesn't mean producing more, but we also want them to produce efficiently so that, you know, from the same piece of land, they can get higher yield, which means they get more product from the same piece of land using the same amount of inputs, same amount of fertilizer, same amount of pesticides, same amount of water. But if we mechanize our agriculture and make it more efficient, and we do what we are calling smart agriculture, then where you are able to produce 2 tons per acre, you can produce 8 tons per acre. And for a farmer to get there, we just need to be able to support them with some financing to buy those mechanization equipment, which is another big agenda for this government. You will see how we were able to tackle post-harvest issues with maize when we got such a high yield of maize because of the subsidy fertilizer program. I think it was our highest yield in almost 10 years or more than 10 years. And now we are faced with a secondary program of post-harvest losses. Where are we going to store this maize? And the government quickly intervened and went and bought 100 mobile maize dryers to go out to the farms, harvest this maize and dry them automatically so that we don't suffer post-harvest losses. It was a large success. So mechanization and using technology in our agriculture sector has been a big agenda of this government. And again, like I said, since it's been deliberate, since it's been part of our plan, since it's been implemented to the T, then we are beginning to see the results of this very deliberate action.
Yes. Let's talk about the coffee subsector.
Yes.
It's also very important to the person, especially in coffee growing areas. And some of the reforms include the aspect where county governments are licensing millers, capital markets authority, brokerage firms, and also agricultural food security licensing coffee buyers. But what about private millers, and what is the role of the new Kenya Planters Cooperative?
There's a lot of reforms that are going on also in the coffee sector. The Deputy President has been spearheading this. You recall there was a coffee conference that was held, I believe it might have been in Meru. That there was a coffee conference where all the stakeholders from the coffee sector were brought together under the leadership of the Deputy President and our Minister for Agriculture. And with that, we listened to what the farmers were saying, listened to what the processors were saying, listened to what the cooperatives were saying, listened to what the market was saying. And you recall, because of some cartels that were in the coffee sector, coffee auction was actually halted until the mess was sorted out. Until you could get direct access into the exchange, the coffee exchange, until we could ensure that a bulk of the money that is being generated from coffee, and Kenya produces some of the best coffee in the world, goes to the farmer and doesn't end up in the pockets of some other people, middlemen along the chain who didn't work so hard to produce the coffee. And a lot of those reforms were done. the exchange was open, and you saw now the farmers are selling their coffee at significantly higher prices. So some of these interventions where we sit down and we listen to the industry and take into consideration their input really helps government create that environment for the entire sector to thrive.
Yes.
So coffee is also one of those sectors that's thriving. I am aware there's still a lot more work that needs to be done.
Yes.
I mentioned here earlier that just last week, you know, my minister was out in China looking for markets for tea and coffee and all of that. The president has, as you've seen, he's been our chief salesman as a country, where every time he goes out of the country, he's able to come back with trade agreements that really focus on enhancing our economic transformation agenda.
Yes.
And it's really put Kenya in the map for as a market for some of this product.
So some of the coffee farmers are yet to receive their payments, so it begs the questions, are there bottlenecks? And if they are there, how are they going to be streamlined in this case?
Like I mentioned earlier, again, it's governed through cooperatives, and some of the cooperatives have different governance structures. So in some of those areas where the farmers feel that they're not being treated properly or they're not getting their dues on at the right time, that usually is escalated to the Ministry of Cooperatives through the Cooperative State Department, and then we come in as government to ensure that our farmers are treated properly and get what is due to them. So I think if that is happening, there are probably some isolated cases that the ministry is probably working on.
Yes. You mentioned something to do with subsidized fertilizer, and we live in a country where agriculture is not just a means of looking for money, it's a livelihood for millions. And can you say from where you stand, the subsidized fertilizer initiative is a success?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the success are in the numbers. The numbers don't lie. I mean, we grew from negative growth of 2.3% to almost 7.9% in agriculture, which necessitated us to grow economically to almost 5.9%. Those are numbers that are showing something is happening. And we can attribute that to not just the fertilizer program, but many other interventions that we've been able to make. For example, the farmer registration that has been very, very successful, has enabled us to make clear decisions, really know where is the farmer, what are they planting, what are their issues, what is their capacity, so that government now can make focused interventions to enable that farmer. And this is what is driving our productivity. Cabinet approved also another very, very progressive initiative that will add a lot of value to our agricultural sector, and this is what we are calling the Land Commercialization Initiative, where we are offering large tracts of government land owned by regional development authorities, owned by the State Department of Livestock, owned by the Kenya prisons, that is unproductive, that is sitting out there as a silent, unused asset. And we are opening up that land to private sector and partnering with them, where we avail them that land to be able to produce. So we've seen a lot of success with that program, especially in the Tana Delta area, where there's rice production that's going on, there's maize production that's going on. And we are proving that in the ASAL areas, which is almost 85% of this country, that we can actually put it under agricultural productivity. I am aware that there's a lot of irrigation initiatives that are happening, because only 15% of our country gets adequate rainfall and all of that, and that's the breadbasket. But we have these other 85% that, if properly irrigated, can also produce agriculture. I mean, we saw a lot of success where there's almost 2,000 acres of maize that is being produced now in Wajir, which really has never been known for food production. But now we are seeing that because of the interventions that government is making to ensure that we're able to irrigate and teach our farmers the importance of irrigation.
Yes.
Through the government's initiative of having dams, both the large-scale dams, the medium-scale dams and the smaller dams around the entire country, and having the dams being made by developed by the private sector is the game changer in our irrigation agenda. Yes. So the big dam that has just been completed out there in Tana River has changed that entire area, and soon you're going to have millions of acres in Tana River, which is considered an arid area, now producing food. I am aware in Isiolo, and I was in consultation with the PS for irrigation,
yes.
PS Kimotho just the other day,
yes.
that now to take care of irrigation in that area, especially for production of animal feed around the Isiolo area, which will now give food to about 16 counties to produce livestock in that area, with another very big dam that contractor has already been awarded and is in the beginning stages to go and develop a dam there. And that again is going to open up that entire area around Samburu and Marsabit and Meru and Laikipia and Isiolo, and all those livestock keepers now all of a sudden will have a lot of water where we can put a feedlot, grow a lot of pasture and fodder for our animals, which will then fatten them and give the market, both local and global, the kind of quality animals that they need in the quantities that they also need. So a lot of work is going on into this, and in all of that, fertilizer has played a very, very integral role.
Yeah, it has
it's extremely successful.
Yeah, but also we witnessed cases where farmers were given fake fertilizer. But now, what are the measures that have been put owing to that case to ensure it never repeats again, and farmers are not duped into getting fake fertilizers?
The substandard fertilizer that was found in the market was very unfortunate, but it was also very negligible. You've seen the figures that I have been able to mention here. Just this season of the long rains, about 3.9 million bags of fertilizer have already been dispensed. Almost 8 million were dispensed in the last season combined with this season. That fertilizer has worked because we've seen the productivity for ourselves. So there was a small isolation that was caught quickly, and the distribution was stopped because we caught it very, very quickly. And you know, it was really blown out of proportion. Unfortunate that it happened, but what's important is that we put in measures to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So just tighter controls around the National Cereal and Produce Board to ensure that all the fertilizer that comes into their stores for onward distribution to the farmers, quality control is adhered to a little more stricter. We ensure that we, of course, adhere to the KBC standards, who are the institution that is really mandated to ensure that all the goods we consume and products are of acceptable standard. And we shouldn't see that recur. Again, like I said, it was recurrent. It didn't happen in the last season. It happened on a very small scale, negligible in this season, and I'm sure measures have been put into place where it won't happen in the future.
All right. We are talking to Honorable Jonathan Mweke, who is the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture. We are talking about food security and agriculture, which is the theme for this year's Madaraka Day. Don't go too far. We continue with this conversation after this short break.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Ulisapurai nini na unaitwache?
Kainyu.
Hiyo sasa ndio mbaya zaidi. Kwa nasikia ni kama anaenda kwa Daode na
Upon time. Lazima nifungue hoteli.
Ni have ever loved her?
Mimi anagwanga chief. Bichego unagaa sura mbaya.
Sasa hii pombe mamake hii hata sio kupenda kwangu.
Akakushika mdomo hivi akakumiminia hivi. Mwedi wale tunaita Paralympic.
Sipendi sikari mingi. Kijiko ine tu.
Mimi anajua kupiga basto. Kwa leo pika Reverend.
You don't call anymore, 'cause I'm still thinking about you. Have you found somebody new? I know your love it is superior. Your devil complex inferior. Oh yes, worshipping material, bowing to your Baringo. Hard like a lion, strong like Mount Zion. So Babylon can never get me down.
All right. Good Morning Kenya continues, and we are talking about agriculture and food security, and we are having this conversation with Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, that is Honorable Jonathan Mweke. And you mentioned something about the Kenya Integrated Agriculture Management System and how it benefits farmers, but also there's an aspect of those who are not within this system. Can they benefit from it? We are talking about access to subsidized fertilizers.
No, they cannot, because one of the things the KIAMIS system does is it enables us to know exactly how much fertilizer you need, so that we reduce wastage. You will recall, Mike, that the subsidizer program is subsidized. Yes. So we reduced fertilizer from 7,500 shillings all the way to 2,500 shillings, which means that it is below the market price of fertilizer. So the government is spending taxpayers' money to ensure that we give our farmers affordable fertilizer, and then we recover that money downstream as government through increased production and productivity. So we really need to be very accurate to ensure that you're getting only the amount of fertilizer that you need. So if you come and we have registered you as a farmer in the KIAMIS system, and it says that you have 7 acres of this crop, then the system automatically calculates how much fertilizer you need to be just enough for that 7 acres, so that you don't get too little or you don't get too much. Then the fertilizer is also given on a voucher system. So you're able to go, you buy, you're given a voucher, then you go and collect it. An e-voucher, you go collect it from the cereals board, or wherever it is, it has been brought to the last mile near where you are as a farmer. Because we also decentralized it further when the farmers complained that some of the cereal board depots are too far. So with that kind of efficiency, it's important that you're registered with us so that we know who you are, and then we can give you what you need. So we encourage all farmers who want to take part in our fertilizer subsidy program to register with us, because there's huge benefits on the same. We've also used that register now to help boost our livestock master plan. We're also doing the same thing in livestock, where we want to know where are the livestock farmers, how much livestock do they have, what needs should they get, so that based on that, we're able to serve those livestock keepers well. A game changer we are putting in the livestock industry now is what we are calling the Livestock Identification and Traceability System, LITS, which is now needed all over the world. Some parts of the world won't even buy your meat if they can't track that meat to the farm. So again, some of this registration is very important for us to be able to help the farmer access the market and produce more. So soon we'll be going to all our livestock farmers so that we can register their livestock, tag them with an ear tag, be able to ensure that we know where the livestock is, what is the vaccination history of that livestock, what size are they, and everything. Then we can be able to link the farmers with the market, because now we'll be able to know where everything is, and it also helps us with disease control. Right now, I'm struggling to work with unbanning our meat from Qatar, who were banned almost 5 years ago because of the foot and mouth disease. So we are running a vaccination program from around the entire country as we move towards eradicating foot and mouth disease from our livestock. That's going to make our livestock so much more marketable around the world, our meat and other livestock products, that the benefits are just enormous. So it's important that we make some of these interventions very quickly. So Kiamis is an important tool for us. It also feeds into another tool by KALRO, which, Mike, now, if you're a farmer somewhere in Kirinyaga County, in a certain ward in Kirinyaga County, you can now go to the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization, KALRO's website. You put in the ward where you are, anywhere in this country, and it will give you a whole list of things that you can plant in that area, so that you're not guessing. You're not trying to plant potatoes where only cabbage can grow. And because different parts of the country have different soil types and different climate, and we've mapped out all of that to help our farmers. So if you want to get into agribusiness or you want to become a farmer, you're now not just guessing what to plant. You go to the website of KALRO, you put in your ward, your constituency, your county, and it'll tell you exactly which crops you can grow in your area. And these are things that we're doing very deliberately to boost agricultural growth in our country.
So that it will even help the farmers to make the right decisions in terms of the plants they want to plant, to put in their...
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit about irrigation. We are yet to unlock our irrigation potential, because irrigation plays a very crucial role in achieving food security. How do we unlock that?
There's a big program of dams that are being done, and the agenda on water for this government is about water purchase agreements, kind of like how we have power purchase agreements. And why? Because the government realized that the private sector can move much faster than government can, and as it should be. The private sector will create way more jobs than the government can. So concept came up, again, under our bottom-up economic transformation agenda, that for a lot of our interventions to work, we need water. And which way can we create a lot of water or ensure there's a lot of water very quickly? It's just open it up to the private sector, be able to enable them with land, give them tax concessions and other incentives to come and invest in the building of dams. It's been done very successfully in Tana River. I just mentioned there's a big dam that's now being built in Isiolo that will completely change the livestock sector around that side of Isiolo, and almost 16 counties around Isiolo will be able to benefit from that. And the dams are, of course, rated. Yeah, so there's the big mega dams, there's the medium dams, and then there's the smaller dams that can be used by communities that we can use in feedlots. So, for example, Mike, we have a very ambitious program under my State Department in which we want, now that we understand the market of meat, I told you earlier that we had done a route to study for meat.
Yes.
So now we understand very clearly where is the market for meat, what is the price that the market is willing to pay, what quantities do they need, what quality do they need, what are the barriers of entering those markets if the markets are international, what are the issues with customs, with logistics. We know all of that because we've studied it and we've figured it out. Now we are coming to the production level to make sure that we can produce for the market. And with that, with our production model, we've seen that we need a lot of meat to be produced because the market is huge. It'll create hundreds of thousands of jobs. So we've come up with a program where we're going to go and build 450 feedlots in 31 counties around the country, both in arid and semi-arid countries. So all the 23 arid counties and other 8 counties that are not arid. And with that, there's an aspect of water. So the model is we'll build a community feedlot in almost every ward. Then we will put that feedlot as a finishing center where we can grow fodder to finish our animals. For example, a cow can add, if fed properly, 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos a day. So if you bring your cow to the feedlot at 100 kilos, it can go up to 190 kilos or sometimes up to 250 kilos in 3 months. So we will be aggregating this livestock from our community cooperatives that are keeping livestock, put them in the feedlot, which has water, which has good security, which is fenced, which we have grown fodder for the animals, fatten them and off-take them into the market and give the money back to the grassroots farmer or the bottom-up farmer who produced that cow. Yeah, so we'll take their cow, fatten it, and give them the benefit from that fattening. And we are doing that around the entire country. All those feedlots will need water. So we need 450 water bodies. So there's a huge elaborate strategy to be able to do some sort of irrigation or provide water, both for crops and for livestock.
And that includes even water harvesting techniques for rainwater?
Yes, we've struggled with water harvesting, and that is why there is now a state corporation called the Water Harvesting Authority that are looking at really modern ways on how we can harvest our water. Of course, again, it has to be done by communities, by people, by putting in standards or regulations on what kind of a roof should you build for your house so that you can be able to take the rainwater and harvest it into some sort of storage. And there's a whole organization that's kind of looking around that, so that we ensure, you know, all this rain is not just lost. It can be stored somewhere and used. But also, Mike, you also realized dams are a form of water harvesting. Yeah, so we'll be able to take all this runoff water from our heavy rains and dam that water and dam the rivers. And then in times when there's no water, you can use those. So our dam strategy is something that I think will solve a lot of problems. Yeah.
Also, the aspect of modern farming techniques are integral in making sure that agriculture achieves its goals, and especially when it comes to food production. And that also points out to the mechanization aspect or the modern technologies in agriculture. Talk about the place of modern technology now in Kenya right about now.
We have programs on smart agriculture that are really focusing around mechanization. And mechanization not just for production but also for storage, so that we take care of what you call post-harvest losses. So we are encouraging farmers to go into much more efficient agriculture that is not just smart in terms of technology, whereby you're able to use GPS systems, you're able to use precision irrigation to make sure that the plant is getting just enough water that it needs, where you're able to use farm equipment for tilling your land, so that you ensure that your soil is turned in a proper way so that it doesn't lose its moisture content and its nutrients, which now makes you get higher productivity, again, right from the tilling of the land. So there's a lot of those technologies that we're encouraging. But also, in addition to smart agriculture, we also have a lot of programs around climate smart agriculture, where we are saying now we need to look at agriculture also in the whole realm of climate action to ensure that we are eco-friendly, and that in livestock we are reducing the emissions of methane gas that is found in cows and so on. So there's a lot of interventions that are going on, and we have policies in our agriculture sector transformation, growth and transformation strategy is there. We have a livestock policy that's there. We have a veterinary policy that's there. We have an agriculture policy that has just been developed that is just waiting to go out into the market. So there's a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes just to make sure that we anchor agriculture properly. I know we might have run out of time, but I don't want to finish without telling the viewers on KBC that this week has a theme of agriculture and livestock. Because His Excellency the President was able to honor our sector and make the theme of this year's Madaraka Day, which is on Saturday, June 1st, as the agriculture and livestock development. So we are running a lot of activities in Bungoma, where the celebrations will be on Saturday. Starting today, actually, as we speak here, the Deputy President is getting ready to go and open up our exhibition center in Bungoma, together with my minister and my colleague P.S. Rono. And tomorrow we will have our minister, the chief guest, and the day after we will have Honorable Wetangula, the Speaker of the National Assembly, overseeing our exhibition. And on Thursday we will have the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, also overseeing that. Friday we'll have big interactions with farmers and stakeholders in the entire agricultural sector. And all of that is building up to the Madaraka Day celebration, Mike, where we will be celebrating and highlighting all the activities that have created impact over the last 1 year, 1.5 years of the Kenya Kwanza government. So all the things that I've spoken about here and much more will really be highlighted throughout this week and on Saturday, so that Kenyans and people around the world can just see the gains we have made in agriculture and livestock in our country.
And everybody is invited.
And everybody is invited.
Asante sana Bwana BS for coming to our show. That is Honorable Jonathan Mweke, who is the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development, talking to us about food security and agriculture. This is where we cap matters that topic. Thank you for tuning in. Don't go too far. Vivian will be back with more. Stay with us.
Kirugilai Boni Mukindia was a chemical engineer by profession. He had worked with different oil companies. His last assignment before he ventured into politics was as a planning and supply manager at Kobil Petroleum Limited, formerly known as Mobil Oil Company. He had previously worked with the Kenya Petroleum Refineries Limited, having joined the government-owned company in 1974 after graduating from the University of Surrey in the United Kingdom. He left the corporation in 1979 to work with Kobil, a multinational corporation. As a newcomer into politics, Kerugi Joseph Laiboni Mukindye took many by surprise following his dramatic victory in the 1988 general election. Even in his home district of Meru, he was not well known. He defeated two veteran politicians Julius Muthamia and Gennaro Gituma in the parliamentary race for Meru Southwest constituency, later named Central Limenti. After winning in 1988, he was appointed Assistant Minister for Energy. Mukindye worked in different ministries as a cabinet minister under President Daniel Toroitich arap Moi. In December 1991, Kenya's political landscape changed as several political parties were registered. In the Mount Kenya region, Mwai Kibaki formed the Democratic Party, and Kenneth Matiba, one of the leaders who had been detained for agitating multipartyism, formed the Forum for Restoration of Democracy for the Sili. KANU reacted by restructuring its presence in Meru. Moi appointed Mukindye Minister for Research, Science and Technology to replace George Muhoho, who had left KANU to join DP. Mukindye faced the 1992 general election in an area that supported the opposition. In 1988, he defied the odds in Imenti Central by retaining the seat on a KANU ticket against three opposition candidates. President Moi reappointed him to the cabinet, this time in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He was among the most articulate ministers in parliament, ably answering every question raised by the opposition. The minister also made bold decisions. In the early 1990s, he stripped the Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry of its mandate to issue ordinary certificates of origin to local exporters. This prompted protests from several entrepreneurs. He took the decision after it was found that some foreign and local entrepreneurs were exporting non-Kenyan products to other markets using fraudulent local certificates of origin. The entrepreneurs were purporting that the products being exported were manufactured in Kenya. His strong defense of the ruling party and the government earned him criticism, and attempts to oust him from the position of Meru KANU branch vice chairman. In 1997, he was transferred to the Ministry of Energy before the general election held in December. He lost the seat to Gitobu Imanyara and won it back in 2001 as a National Rainbow Coalition candidate, only to lose it to Imanyara again in 2007. He unsuccessfully contested the seat again in 2017. Jackie Wambiru, The Cabinet.
It is a cry for hope, a mark of a successful birth, and in most cases, it is a sound that brings forth joy and pride in every home. But most importantly, an indication of the beginning of life. One of Kenya's focus is to provide quality and affordable healthcare services to her citizens, and we focus our attention on a group of often unsung heroes. They are those at the beginning of life, during times of crisis, and moments of joy, playing an indispensable role alongside other healthcare professionals. They are Kenya's midwives. It was at Haven Healthcare in the heart of Nairobi's Ruai area where we had the privilege of meeting Mr. Lego, a professional midwife with more than 30 years of experience in caring for Kenyan mothers and their infants. He takes immense pride in his noble profession. For Mr. Lego and his colleagues in the field, midwifery is far more than a profession. It's a vocation deeply rooted in compassion, expertise, and the profound art of nurturing new life. Midwives like him rise each day, not only to bring members of the next generation into the world, but also to support mothers throughout their pregnancy journeys and in the first few weeks of life. Here in Kenya and around the world, midwives play a pivotal role in delivering primary level maternal and newborn health services to mothers and infants. They bridge healthcare gaps and ensure that the next generation is born healthy and in good shape, ready to face the world.
It is a long journey, let me say, with this midwifery. If you remember earlier, we had what we call community health workers and traditional birth attendants. These traditional birth attendants did some good work, but they were limited with the knowledge. They didn't have the Dopplers I've shown you here. They didn't have the basic requirements. How would they know that they were twins? How would they know that the baby carried inside the mama has some deformities? How would they know that there is a cord around the neck? Nowadays the technology has grown, and this has bridged that gap that was there. Now we can deliver safely. We have managed to ensure that mamas are well educated, well knowledgeable about their pregnancies. They know the danger signs. They will rush to hospital and get the care that is needed before things go haywire. So we have really bridged that gap, the gap of not knowing what is next. We nowadays live knowing what is expected.
When Alego is not in his office, delivering newborn babies or mentoring young professionals, he can be found making rounds with a joyful demeanor, ensuring the comfort and well-being of mothers, infants, and sometimes their families. The challenges faced by midwives are immense and can take a toll on their well-being.
I was in contact with a mother. He had not become a mother because he had no living child, because he had 6 miscarriages. So when this mama got the 7th pregnancy, she came to us, and I was lucky to have received her, and we walked the journey. She came when she was only 10 weeks, that is almost 2 months. 2 months as such. So in the 10 weeks, we moved through until 40 weeks. Along the journey, she was being admitted because there was that labor was coming, premature labor. So we had to admit this patient until the last dates. The mama delivered a baby. You see, a mama almost comes out of the coach. You have not gone through the processes of clearing the delivery. She wants to kneel down and to pray before the end of the process, and that one really satisfied me.
Despite these challenges, midwives remain dedicated to their mission of providing safe, compassionate, and holistic care to expectant mothers and their newborns. With a lifetime spent caring for mothers and newborns, Alogo serves as a beacon of inspiration for those in the profession and those aspiring to join it. We leave you with the words of our wise forefathers, reminding us of the profound respect that heroes like Mr. Lego deserve from us. Usitukane wakunga na uzazi ungalipo.
We are glad that you are still tuned to Good Morning Kenya this beautiful Monday morning. Right now we get straight into Family Check, and our topic of conversation today is on parenting teenagers. And joining me to just expound on this topic, I have with me on my immediate right is Pastor Samuel Mangi, and on my far right is Pastor Collins Oyamo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
How are you doing this morning?
Are we good?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, let's get straight into it. When we talk about parenting teenagers, what are we looking at? How different is it from parenting a younger child, you know, to parenting a teenager? Yeah, if we may begin with you.
Thank you. In the context that we are discussing about and in the current situation in our country and in the world, you will bear witness with me that teenagers of this generation has a little bit of challenge, or they are challenged when it comes to how to handle them. And as a parent or as parents, we need to be deliberate and to have some wisdom or knowledge on how to train them or to bring them up so that they can be able to develop strong minds to overcome the pressures of the world. And therefore, we will be discussing on how to aid the parents to understand the teenagers, as well as how the teenagers should understand their parents so that they can be able to synchronize well and live in a way which is harmonious.
I think from your question, what we're discussing is how to handle individuals who are just about to get into adulthood. It's so different compared to toddlers or children whom you basically have to instruct in every aspect of their lives.
So you cannot use the same style that you were using before they got to teenagehood.
No. What I think and what I believe is that the early stages in life, the training that you take them through while they're young prepares them for their teenage life. That's what I believe. It's like planting a seed and then harvesting when the time comes. Because if you missed that, then you probably would have a challenge with their teenage life. Yes.
What mistakes maybe do you think, parents make, when it comes to parenting teenagers?
To start with, when for you to have a teenager who is strong in mind, or to have a teenager who is admirable, or a teenager whom a parent would be proud of, first and foremost, we must know that the background or the foundation must be solid. When you read the scripture in the book of Proverbs 22, verse 6, the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he grow up, he will never depart from it. And therefore, one of the blunders that maybe a parent or parents do is to ignore or to mess in their upbringing when they are young, taking care of children or bringing up the children in the way they should go. I think when you mess up in their early age, then you will have a challenge in their teenage.
So one of the challenges that I think parents undergo is missing the opportunity.
Yes.
Sometimes they want to come to the teenager a little too late, and the water has gone under the bridge. So it's very difficult to manage a child who you've not been, behind their lives. You've not seen them to do their homeworks. You've not been with them to sports. You've not seen them. You don't even know who their friends are. So I think, basically, in my opinion, parents, when they miss out in the developmental stages of their children, they come to find it difficult in the latter stage, trying to, help them or manage or prepare them for adulthood. Yes.
And this starts right from the early ages of children. Not only, right from the conception. Because what is happening with parenting nowadays, and that's why we have a challenge with our teenagers, we have to acknowledge that. Because I personally deal with the youths, and most of the challenges that I'm getting in my office is of teenagers who have defied their parents, and they have started misbehaving, and the parents are having stress on how to direct them. Now, we have to acknowledge that the problem starts from the early age, the conception age. We know we must be able to deliberately bring them up, because when we mess up being deliberate in bringing up our children, then when they grow up, we will have a challenge, like the pastor is saying, that you cannot come to the lives, or you want now to be deliberate when a child is up. You must first of all have a touch with that child when he is young or when she is young, so that you can be able to follow up even when he comes to the age of teenager. For instance, as parents, we have absconded, let me say that, the duty of bringing up our children because of the busyness that we have. We are too busy to be with our children. Even not only the male, the fathers of the children, or even the mothers nowadays, they have absconded that responsibility, and they have messed up by leaving the children to their maids or their house managers, or they are taking the children to what are they called? The daycares. And that is messing up the development, even not only the physical development, but also the psychological development of children.
But then again, what happens when the parent is busy? I mean, they're out here looking for money to be able to cater for this child, financially and all. So what happens when you're busy? How do you create time to do all that?
Now,
you can turn a bit. Your camera is number 4, so
yes,
just a bit.
I was so engrossed in the discussion.
No problem.
I think from what he's saying, the parent must be deliberate. It means the parent must, in his timetable or in his budget of time, ensure that the baby has some time allotted to it. Because if you fail to do so, it doesn't matter how busy you are. You can't chase the dollar or the shilling at the expense of your child. I mean, why get the dollar and lose the baby? So what was the whole essence? I think as parents, we have to be deliberate, and we have to create time for our children. I don't think there's any treasure out there too valuable at the expense of your child. So that has to be given, has to be deliberate. We know the economic state is not good and stuff, but a parent must just be deliberate. And in so doing, the parent must set a stage for being an example to the baby. Because you see, like he said, we have handed over our children to the television sets, we have handed over our children to internet, Cocomelon and all those things. We've handed out our children to daycare and stuff. But now, where is the place of the role model? Who is the child to model? Who is the child to copy and learn from? And I think, as you're asking, the most important thing, what a parent must do is to budget time for their children.
Yeah, be intentional about it.
Being intentional, because let me say this, being intentional to bring up your child also will be able to help you to have even good health in future. Let me testify that most of the cases that I handle is of parents who are stressed up because of their children. They missed the point. They missed the point in bringing their children. Now their children are grown, and you know, when we are young, this way we are learning here and there, looking for money, getting the dollar and the gold and what have you, and now we have it. But now what? In the later age, when now we have matured, everything is cooled down, what we want is to see our parents, our children are happy, to enjoy their company, and then that child, because of their bringing, has turned to be a mess in the country or even in your life. Then you start having high blood pressure and what have you. So we must be deliberate for us to have a wonderful life, so that we can avoid that mess when we grow up, that we are old, now we want to enjoy life, but our children, because we did not take care of them, they have started messing up with us. And then we are having high blood pressures every time we are crying about our children. You know, that child you left to the maid, that child you left to daycare. And it is so unfortunate that these days people have become evil. How many clips have we seen of maids beating up children and messing up with them? Recently, I was telling Pastor that I was called by one of my friends that her child, she took her child to a daycare, and it's like the health has deteriorated, and what they are guessing is that the child had been given sleeping pills. Pastor was telling me others give even alcohol, so that the child can sleep and stop disturbing. Now, when you mess up, we are discussing about teenage upbringing. When you mess up in this early age, the foundation of it, be sure that even when that child reaches at the age of teenager, now when you want to see the fruits, you will not see them. Because they have been messed up at early age. So we must be deliberate on bringing up our children. We must not take our works or our jobs in the expense of bringing up our children. Actually, some advice, parental advice, is that you can take some lighter jobs as a mother or as a father, so that you can have inadequate time to train your child, or to be with your child as he grows up in the early stage, because that is the only way that we can be able to sustain that child to become a strong teenager in the future. Because let me say this, we are having weak-minded teenagers. We don't have strong-minded teenagers these days, and that's why you hear cases of suicide, cases of giving up with life, cases of drug addiction is so rampant and so much in the country.
I wouldn't want to really blame the teenager, because of course when we look at their development and where they are, these are mini adults, for lack of a good word. They are people dealing with hormonal, imbalances and changes. They're dealing with self-esteem issues, seeing that their body structures are changing. Yesterday they were speaking in some shrill voice. Today it's a bass. They are confused at what's happening. We have internet influence all over. We have peer pressure, and of course this has to affect the young person. The other thing that we probably need to focus on as parents is, how do we handle this wreck? How do we handle this confusion that's happening in this young man? And therefore, I believe that parents should actually prepare for that day. If you have a toddler today, just prepare, that someday in the future, I'm going to deal with a teenager. Prepare them by, being an example to them. Prepare by being deliberate in their lives to train and to guide and to lead, because that's what will help them even navigate properly, the teenage, era where they will be having, a bit of challenge or something.
Okay, and maybe what strategies should a parent use when, or rather to bring up conversations that are difficult? Conversations of things like sex, drugs. How does a parent go about that? What strategies do they use? And when exactly should you start talking about these very difficult conversations or topics?
I would go first, and I would say this, that the conversations that seem difficult, especially in the African setting, because some of these are taboo subjects in our home states. We don't talk about sex. But I think that as a parent, you would be, for lack of a good word, so foolish not to accept the fact that the information is already with the child. No, with the child. Because today, from a very tender age, 8, 7, they already have this, You would see them shying off from the opposite sex, you'd see, because they have a clue. And another thing, in the information era, kids are getting this all over. It's on the net, it's in school, the other kids are talking about it, so they know about it. In fact, in the West, you understand that they are sexually active from a very tender age.
Yes.
Now, as a parent living in a postmodern era, I would advise that it's not time to wrap things in cover. It's time to unfurl and talk about it. To just come straight on and talk about it. It will be best for you to be the source of information as a parent than for the child to get it elsewhere. The era of telling children that babies are born or babies are bought from a shop or picked in a supermarket is long gone. Today they will tell you, I have a small boy, and he would probably be understanding this stuff because he watches a lot of these scientific, programs. And I'm pretty sure that the boy is adapt to what's happening and he understands. When the time comes, I sit him down and tell him, man, this is how it operates and this is how babies are brought forth. So sex and all these topics like drugs and all that should be a subject that parents are ready to share with the little one as early as the child seems to have some information. Because any later than that, you will be at sea.
Pastor Mwangi, when do you feel is the right time, and how do you start up this, or how do you start speaking about these conversations?
Now, first and foremost, we must go back to what we said, the basics. You must make this child a friend to you. That even when you are discussing these matters, you have been able to be together, or you have a link with one another. Because it is so sorry to say that some of the parents, they don't have links with their children. And that's why it is difficult to come and introduce some topics, some kinds of topic. First and foremost, the parents must be deliberate to have links with their children, to be friends to their children, because we have come out of the era where we were afraid of our parents. When your dad, during our upbringing, those years, even though I'm not young, I'm young, I'm not old. Sometimes you hear that your dad is coming, and then you stop everything you are doing, and then you are like fearing, or you humble yourself. No, we need to have that relationship with our children, to have. Let them be our friends. Let them be our friends, so that when you are introducing these topics and these topics which are sensitive, that you will be able to flow smoothly. And the time to start this off is as soon as the child starts knowing the things, or the way Pastor is saying, understanding things that are happening. Because you will come to understand, even a child of 5 years have started thinking about, why is mommy having this kind of shape? Why is daddy not having this kind of shape? I don't want to say something, but my son recently asked me of a question. I was like, hey, 4 years old boy is asking me a question. Why are you as and mamas is different? I don't know where he got the idea, but 5 years, 4 to 5 years, at this moment he has started getting the changes between a female and a male. So the right time to speak to our children is it's right immediately after they have started understanding things. We need to get into them and tell them this is the way, so that they will not have to get information from outside.
Foster communication. Create that space where the family can talk about this. Some people, it's the dinner table. Others, it's early in the morning or in the evening when they're back from work and stuff. But there has to be an environment where people can speak freely. When a child, for example, comes up with a strange word that shocks you as a parent, don't beat the child up. Maybe you need to find out from whence cometh the word. And after you get the word, after you get the source rather, then you would be able to help the child navigate through that phase. Because trust me, they know all these things. You just need to, it's the parent who has a problem. Maybe the parent needs parenting.
All right. Now, is there a difference with you bringing up a boy child and a girl child? Like when we're talking about teenagers, do you have different styles in raising up a girl and a boy?
In my opinion, all children are equal. I know that there's this overemphasis on one gender and on the over the other. But in my opinion, if I'm a father of a daughter or a father of a son, I'll raise him up the same way. Because truth is that they're coming to face the same world. There's no world for a girl child and a world for a boy child. And currently, you understand that the state of life, as it is today, many of the younger people are having challenges because of having been preferred over another gender. So I would say there would be differences, of course, in how you relate to them and how you prepare them for life, but you must not raise them any different. You must raise them as your children, of course, with their uniqueness, but they are the same. I believe that a boy child and a girl child still remains to be a child.
But I want to deviate a little bit from what Pastor is saying, because what we are observing in the world today, the boy child is more challenged than the girl child. I think it's because of the emphasis that were being made about the girl child there before. But right now we need to be deliberate about the boy child. Why? We will realize that most of the time, the parent that is usually concerned so much with their children is the mother. And the mother will train up the girls, and sorry to say that the girl will be able to grasp or to get how the mothers should be. And therefore, they don't have a lot of challenge. But what about the boy child? The fathers are not there. There is no one, most of the time we get that the mother is taking care of even the boy child. So there is no an example, because the father comes in the morning, in the night when the children are asleep, and then he leaves in the morning before even seeing the child. There is no time of parenting the way we say deliberate parenting, and that's why we are having a lot of challenges, especially with the boy child. Most of the cases that are brought in my office in regards to the teenagers who are giving stress to their parents is the boy child, because they don't have that close touch with their fathers. They only have the touch with their mothers. And maybe there are some aspects of life that a boy child must know or must learn from the father. That's why we said you must be an example to your child. You must coach your child. Pastor have that curriculum, and he is a champion of coaching a child. As a boy child, he must be coached, and therefore. And
even when you say that, I also understand we cannot, assume that every child has a father. There are kids who are brought up in single homes, so probably they just have their mother, as a single mother. So what you're saying is, you intentionally also look for a model for this child. Either an uncle, a pastor, just someone, that is a male figure as well.
A coach.
Yeah.
I think Pastor can speak about coaching.
Yes. I believe parenting is coaching. Yeah, it's nothing to do with siring a child and providing basic needs. The government can
upbringing, not upbringing.
The government can provide. But it's about being intentional in the life of the child, deliberate, and preparing this particular individual for a future. And so some of the soft skills that are slowly and quickly dissipating is because there is no one to show them. No one is there to teach the boy child today to open doors for the girl child. I see you smiling. Nobody is there to teach them how to shake hands and look people in the eye and say good morning. Nobody is there to even tell them how to. You read some of the, application letters that I have received in my office, and I look at it and, what is this? University students can't even, express themselves. And it's because I feel there's a gap. We do not have models for our kids. And the parent must be intentional in this, to model the child, to coach the child, to take the child through basic steps, to prepare them to be functional adults when that time comes. And yes, you brought the point of single parents and children raised in single homes.
Households.
I would say this, that it will be best for the parent that has the child to find a male figure. I would say, I use this line, though it may be a little rude, but it takes a man to raise a man. Yeah, because it's a man who will show the ropes how to be a man. And so if, for example, the child lives with the mother, then the mother must be deliberate in looking and sourcing for that male figure that's going to be in the life of this child to help the child. Not in any way related to the mother, but can be a pastor, as you say, can be some coach, can be, you know, whoever. An uncle that will help the boy navigate, you know, the issues of men to prepare them to adulthood.
Okay. You had talked about the issue of, or rather, you had talked about parents also ensuring that they are friends to their children. You know, in the generation we're living in right now, in the space we're in right now, you cannot withhold information. You need to be friends to your child and all. But where do you draw the line whereby you also instill discipline and don't come off as too harsh? In that now your child doesn't see you as, you know, dad is no longer my friend because, you know, he's being too harsh. So how do you instill discipline to your child without coming off as too harsh and maintaining that friendship whereby they can come to you and tell you anything?
Okay, towards this, it's very good because the Bible also admonishes that spare the Lord and spoil the child. And it doesn't mean that when you use discipline, you are not a friend to the child. When we speak about friendship, is that you are there in the life of that child, that you have links, that the child is growing up with a friend. And most of the time, as children, sometimes they err. And even when you are instilling discipline, there must be an understanding with one another. For example, for instance, the way we were brought up. Our mother used to discipline us, and it is not that lightly. But before she disciplined us, we would have a conversation. Now, you were told to take care of the githeri, and you went to pray, and githeri kaungua. So you have accepted that you made a mistake. So he would take a whip and then whip us, but with an understanding. I understand it is not through. She did not do it out of anger or anything, but she did it with love, correcting. And most of the statement she used to use is that I'm not beating you, I'm beating the mistake in you.
But you know, nowadays, beating children is kind of like not
illegal.
Advised.
Yes. But let me say this, it will depend which age. I'm not for or against the cane. I'm not for or against the cane. But what I would say is that at point we must discipline our children. Once we don't do that, then we are raising a generation that will have a problem. Because for a child to understand a mistake, there must be that understanding that there is consequences of committing a mistake. And when we leave it to the world, when we don't discipline them, we will have chaos. Pastor can speak in the West what is happening, that teenagers have gone out of control, that they can do anything because they were not taught there is what? Consequences of sin. Therefore, let me say this, it would be very deliberate that even if you are creating friendship with this child, there is the drawing of line. If you make a mistake, there is a consequence. And first of all, you must start it at the younger age, because you can't start it when they start understanding or when they are big enough. Actually, we advocate for ages 0 to 3, caning might not be effectual. But discipline from 3 to age 9, it is okay, because that's where now the child is developing and knowing what is right and what is wrong. But now from age 10, especially from 10 now to the teenage, it is a stage that you don't discipline physically with caning or kuchuna or something like that, but talking to that child, because sometimes, let me say, that talking to a child who is 9 to 12, or at 9 and above, talking to her or him and telling him this is wrong and this is what you have done, it will be a discipline enough for that child to change his acts. But imagine talking to a child of 4 to 9 years. Caning, I think, for me, it will work better than...
I don't know what you think about that, Pastor Collins. Are you for or against the cane?
I'm against the caning, yeah, because having been raised and being given strokes, I know the torture. It's torturous. I wouldn't, though myself, I would not spare. So I'm against, but I wouldn't spare. I don't know where you'll place me. A parent, in my opinion, must be that one person, when a child makes a mistake, the child can run to him or her and say, Daddy or Mommy, I made this mistake. We do not punish children for making mistakes. Myself, I punish the child for disobedience. People make mistakes. I can break a glass. My wife can break a glass. And the child can also break a glass. We do not punish the child for breaking a glass. But we could punish the child for don't break a glass, and then they pick it and throw it down. Now that's where punishment comes in. And it varies. It's from withdrawing their toys, giving away their toys, sending them to their room and locking them up for a while, denying them a birthday party and stuff like that, to help them understand that there are consequences for disobedience. For me, the main focus is, can I train up or raise up an obedient child? Punishment will be for disobedience. But mistakes, we can work and we can correct and we can learn as we progress. That will be my take.
How do you go about giving them independence in a way where you're also raising up children who are sort of independent? You know, you're raising up children who will be, later grow up to become, independent adults. How do you look into that deliberately?
So what I'm doing, for example, with my child, I'm allowing them to get into the space where they can make decisions for themselves. For example, when we go to a restaurant, I give him the menu to make a decision on what he's going to eat. So sometimes he chooses things because they look fancy and the names are interesting, and he has to bear with the consequences of what he chose. Because if I'm paying that for that, then you better eat it because you chose it, not me. And of course, he's quickly learning that he has some room to wriggle and to make decisions and make choices for himself. The sooner we can teach our children how to make choices, the better for us as parents. We will not be with them in high school as teenagers when they're making those decisions as to whether to smoke or not to smoke. But if you can lay these foundations and prepare the child so that when they go, you tell them that for every action, there is always a consequence, and these are the consequences for bad choices. And the child will be able to, to a large extent, navigate themselves. But as I said it, you must be that one person whenever the child is in a fix or in a corner or has to make a decision, can always come back to you for reference. You may not be audibly there to say, but they must have studied you as a parent and will be able to say that, I know if my dad was in this situation, this would have been the choice he would have made in regards to this particular, circumstance.
In the same line, what I would say is that we have come out of the era of telling our children don't, because they rebel with the statements of don't. And yesterday we were in a drug awareness walk, and one of the instructors, we were having a chat, and we discussed and said the only way that now we will help our teenagers, because we are discussing about our teenagers now coming back to the teenagers, is that we tell them why. so that they will be able, even if you are setting them free and you're giving them the freedom of choice, they have known the consequences of going against what you have told them. So for you to give them that freedom of choice, first and foremost, you must make sure that the foundation is laid well. You have instructed them that when you go this way, this is the consequences. Why are we telling you not to do this? Why are we telling you to come early in the house? Why are we telling you to avoid such kind of association or company? It is because of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we must come out of the era which we were brought up in, that we were told, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But now we go, why should I not? Why should I? Why should I? We should change. And the parenting, or especially of teenagers nowadays, they are reasoning. They are asking themselves, why am I being told not to do this? Not that they are taking what we are telling them immediately. So I think we need to also change the tactic of parenting so that we can be free to give them the freedom of choice. For instance, I remember when, because of the way our parents, I'm not boasting or praising them, but I'm just acknowledging, we were brought up in a way in the church, and the way we behaved when we were over with our class 8 exams, we passed, and I remember my dad did not have enough finances to take us to a boarding school, although I was called in a good boarding school. So there was a good institution which was far from home, but and it was performing well, and my dad said, no, you will go and start there. And then we didn't have any relatives around that place. It's a day school and it is a high school. So he said, no, we will go look for a house just near the school. Then you will be commuting from the house to school. And then some of our relatives said, hey, you are releasing these kids very early. They will get spoiled. And my dad said, no, I know my children. I know my children. They can behave themselves. And we lived well. We finished our school. No cases which were found, because we were brought up in a way that our parents were confident that even if they go to the world, they are strong and they have good self-esteem, that they can lead themselves and behave well. Therefore, what I want to mean is that when you put the background well, and when the foundation is strong, then you can be able to be peaceful, even as you are giving them the freedom of choice.
As we get to wind up with this conversation, you know, in line with what you were saying, maybe what life skills do you feel a teenager should learn before leaving the home? You know, a teenager goes up to age 19. So before they get into their 20s, what life skills do you feel is important for them to have learned? I
think as I mentioned, the soft skills, you know, being able to express themselves, that to me is very key, because today we don't know what they are talking about. You can't even understand them. So if a young person getting into adulthood is able to express themselves well, then that's a plus. Number 2, my opinion, they should be able to take care of themselves. You know, they should be young people who are able to put parameters around themselves and to know that this works for me, this doesn't work for me. So, and this takes training to show them their worth and to show them that they are people of, you know, recognition, people of importance. You know, they are able to be something in the society. And that prepares the child to navigate life and all that. So just the basic skills of taking care of themselves, taking care of you know, those that are around them, being kind to other people, and, you know, ensuring that everyone is safe around themselves, making decisions also corporately, thinking about others as they make decisions, so that the young man or young woman is not self-centered to be all about themselves and not about other people. I think the basics, you know, of life. Yeah, we who were born in the yesteryears, I'm not as old as he is, maybe I'm old.
No, you are.
We who were born in the yesteryears can testify that we had the community to parent us. You know, the child, raising up a child was not a family affair. It was a communal affair. So today we do not have that. That fabric is gone. The family is also getting, you know, torn into pieces. So, like we say, deliberate. The father, the mother must be deliberate. I want to raise a son who's able to express themselves, you know, to stand and talk for themselves or for other people, and also express that which they desire, that the world may hear.
Okay.
That is very fundamental for me to prepare, because whatever else the school will do, but these soft skills that prepare them for life is fundamental.
Okay, our time is up. I'm being told we have to wind up with this conversation. So thank you so much for shedding light on this. I believe that those watching have gotten to pick a thing or two from this discussion that was parenting of our teenagers. Thank you so much, Pastor Samuel Mwangi and Pastor Collins Oyamo. Don't go too far, because Good Morning Kenya will be continuing shortly.
Mizimu imesema atakayekuwa kiongozi ni yule pete itamchagua.
Bahari imechafuka. Mrithi wangu ni yule atakayeniletea vuo la kuoga.
Sasa na hili vuo wachana nalo, wakati wake umepita.
Pete hii ni ishara ya utawala.
Huu uongozi tusimwachie Jasiri.
Kwa nini uongozi usimwende Jasiri? Na wauliza nyinyi, Jasiri ana nini?
Kiva, hakuna atakayekusumbua.
Technology has become a crucial part of our society. Without technological advancements, so much of our everyday lives would be drastically different. As technology develops, it strives to fulfill the changing needs of society. This means that technology exists to help us achieve the things that we wouldn't be able to achieve without it. Take on Tech looks at the advantages and downside of technological innovation in a world that is becoming increasingly dependent on new digital technologies. Every Monday at 10:30 p.m.
Are you a talented artist? Or are you passionate about a topic you want to discuss? But money can be very hard to find for an upcoming artist. Don't worry, Studio Mashinani has got your back. Sign up on ajira.co.ke to book a session with your music and video producers across the country. Work on your music, jingles, spoken words, and even podcasts to realize your dream. All for free. Studio Mashinani, Radani Talent.
I never joke around with serious agendas. Beautiful. Eh? Atito, you mean even today is beautiful today?
What fool stole it? Do you think you will get away with this? Do you know me?
What is wrong with you guys? Hey, you want Musemme? Why can't you just mind your own businesses? And of course, this woman is a raya.
Maalimu Banis, we just did our job.
Your job is also to use your medulla oblongata.
Can't you people stay without drama for 1 month? Just 1 month, eh? Masai, keep up cleaning up your messes.
Okay, and we are back this time with a different conversation, but still on a family check. And this is the purpose of marriage. And I am joined by one Apostle Helen. Apostle Helen, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you so much, Madam Vivian.
All right. Yeah. If we may get just direct into this, we're looking at the purpose of marriage. How do we define, first of all, that phrase, the purpose of marriage?
The purpose of marriage.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. It's a family check area that we are speaking about the purpose or the agenda of marriage in our days or even in our season. And now, if I can be able to define the purpose of marriage, it simply means the reason. Why should we be in marriage?
Yes.
Why is marriage important?
Yeah. And why is it important?
It is so important because, number one, we need to understand what is marriage first, and why God considers a marriage a crucial institution. Because, number one, marriage is a God institution. It is God himself who made this institution. It's the only institution that God made. Any other institution is man-made. So when God makes this institution, he calls it my own. When he makes the man and the woman to come together, he joins them together and continues to say that let no man put asunder what I have joined, so that these two people can be able to incubate the agenda of God in a generation. The purpose of that coming together is to allow the agenda of God, the mind of God concerning this holy institution that he considered, let me not give somebody else this duty to make this institution, but I put it upon myself to make it myself. So it is purely a God agenda. Yes. And it should revolve all around by God agenda, nothing else. God himself should reign, should rule in this institution. Yeah.
And how is marriage affected by cultural and societal norms?
It is affected because, number one, we are getting it right from inception. When now you don't understand, oh, this is not something that benefits Helen. This is not something that benefits Anthony, my husband. This is not something that it is about the selfishness. But when you understand it's a God institution, then cultural influence should not interfere with this institution. Because once we come together with and that's why the Bible says a man must live. A man will leave the father and the mother and cling to the wife, and two shall become one. So there is that part of living. So we get to a point whereby we see chaos in marriages because somebody did not leave. But they came with their traditional baggages, their cultural baggages. But when you understand you need to leave, cling to your wife, to become one, and allow God's purpose to take you through, then marriage becomes so sweet and so doable. Yeah.
How do you feel the perspective of marriage has changed over time? You know, from what you just talked about, the purpose, you know, from the beginning, how do you feel right now it has changed over the years?
Right now, it has changed and a lot, because now we drifted away from the reason as to why we were coming together. At some point, maybe it was like somebody was running away from poverty. It was like it was a plan to get out of some kind of a poverty scheme, maybe in our family where I was brought up. Kulikuwa na shida. So I decided to find a way out of the problem, which is a wrong intention. Sometimes you find somebody is joining with another man or even another woman because of the wrong agenda, because of maybe money, feelings, love alone. Love is good, but love alone will never sustain any marriage. So you must get it right at the inception, so that you understand what should I expect. Huko mbele. What do you expect? So when you get it right at the beginning, at the center, or at the end, it shall be good marriage. Yeah.
You just mentioned that love alone cannot sustain a marriage.
It cannot.
So what are the things that sustains marriages?
There are so many things that need to be put into place for any marriage to be a success. Number one, you need to understand that marriage is a work that works. And it should be a work that is coming from two spouses, not like one is the one who is working for the marriage. There must be two committed people. And in this case, there must be two committed, mature individual. Mature individual. In case of maturity, we are not talking about the age. We are not talking about how old you are, how young you are. But maturity, do you understand the intensity of the institution that you are saying yes to God? Because when you get into any marriage, you say yes to God. You not only say yes to your spouse, but you say yes to God. When you walk down the aisle and you say, yes, I will marry this man, yes, I will marry this woman, you are not only committing to your spouse, you committing yourself to God. From there, whatever you'll do, it is only God whom you'll be accountable to. And that's why now we are getting so many challenges, because I will not do this because now my husband is not appreciating. I will not do this because my wife is not reciprocating, is not submitting. We are getting it wrong from there. Because whatever you do in that marriage, it should be unto the Lord. You are being accountable to God. You're doing this because of God. You are not doing it because of your spouse. And that's why now we are getting it wrong. We are feeling like, oh, because love, I am loved. Now I'm loving my wife. This alone cannot sustain, because understanding must be a principle in that marriage. Wisdom, the Bible says, wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom comes in when there is a legit reasons to part ways. And everybody is like, no, I need some break, which sometimes it's legit. Kumepatikana shida. And this problem calls for you to separate. But where is God in this conversation of separation? Where does God comes in? That is now where wisdom of God supersedes your feeling and legitimate reason for you to separate. And you tell God, because of you, I will rise above this reason for separation. And I will stand in for you, I will stand in for a generation to see this purpose not aborted, because separation and divorce are both the agenda now that we are talking about and the purpose of God concerning this institution. So anytime the spouse knows that I'm not in this institution because of love, then you need to press in and ask God, what else am I here for? And when now you press into the place of intimacy with God, you will get to be opened up and understand there is more to love. Because at times you wake up and you feel like, I don't need to love. I don't feel like loving. You know, sometimes you wake up and hey, is this the same person I married? How did we even get together? Those are realities of life and marriage. But amidst that, where is the purpose of God? Where is the agenda of God? When you feel like you don't need to love, you don't feel like you can love anymore, what about God?
I hear you on that. You know what they say, that when two people come together in marriage, they become one. So how do you ensure that your expectations align?
It is when now you need to understand that it is God's agenda that brought you together. There is something that brought you together, and God will never change. The way God sees marriage, it will never change. And this takes me back when I remember about the season of Noah, the time of Noah. There were these angels, the fallen angels, who came and, you know, they tried to marry the human beings, and God was not happy about it. And he had to wipe out the whole generation by floods so that he can be able to regain back the purpose and agenda of him creating this institution. Why am I saying this? It is because even God himself cannot interfere with what has been joined together. He is the one who joins together. He cannot separate the two of you. And that's why he says, I hate divorce. So God cannot commit himself into what he hates. So one thing you need to understand, that what brings you together must never be interfered by anyone. Do you have a common agenda? Like, do your wife know why you are in my life? Do your husband know why you came into his life? The agenda must be,
they need to align.
They need to align, and they need to be so clear. Like when you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like talking to me, I am here. We are here to go for this goal. We are here for this. So when you wake up and you feel like you have the mood swings, we have the bigger agenda. These ones are just but the side shows. So do you have something that brings you together as a couple? Do you have your common goals? And does God dominate in your union? Because that one is another factor. When God dominates in that institution, then everything else must align. Yes.
Yeah, and as you said, you need to clearly put them, on the table. Like, this is your goal, this is my goal, and then we find ways to align.
That now, my dear Vivian, that comes now before you say I do.
Okay.
You need to marry a friend. You need to marry somebody who knows where you're going.
This should not be in marriage.
No,
this should be before you get into it.
Before you get into this. This is what I do. This is where I want to go. This is what my marriage will do for God. Are you ready for it? So if you say yes, then can you bring your life purposes also here? I want to see them. If they align, we are going to go. But God must be the agenda in that marriage.
Yeah.
So I put these boundaries clear on the table before you move on. Marry a friend. Marry a compatible spouse. That's why the Bible says in the book of Genesis, chapter number 2 and verses 18, the Bible says, and God saw it was not good for a man to be alone. He gave him a suitable. Suitability is a factor. If any marriage has to work, suitability is a factor that we cannot ignore. Because if Adam was removed a rib, it means Adam had to find the rib that was to fit in the space that the rib was removed.
Yeah.
The reason as to why we have so many problems is because the rib that was removed from a man is not the rib that now the man is trying to get to fit into the ribs. You're trying to fix something that is bigger than the space, smaller than the space, and everything else now becomes chaos. Yeah.
So the suitability is very important.
Is a factor.
Yeah.
Suitability to do what? To help. Now, the suitable helper. So there is somebody who is coming in to help. But at times we are finding a generation that is so confused that, yes, you're looking for a helper, a suitable helper, but in that case, you do not have anything to be helped. There is nothing. You don't have a goal, you don't have a project, you don't have a vision, but here comes in a suitable helper. You're going to waste the power in this helper to help you because she doesn't have anything. She cannot find anything in your life to help. So also, alignment also is a key.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a helper, make sure that your visions, because a man is a visionary for that marriage. The man is the head. And that one will never change. The reason it will never change is because God himself is demonstrating that dominion by having some conversation with this man in the Garden of Eden. Remember, they used to have conversations in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening with Adam. And that's why when the snake came, after now the woman was created, when the snake came, Eve ate the fruit, but Eve, nothing happened to her. Actually, she didn't realize I'm naked until the authority over the husband agreed that Yes, let me taste the fruit. So there is that authority, and God is not a God of confusion. Authority in marriage must be exercised. The man has to be the visionary and has to show the way for this marriage to work.
Yeah. And something that has also come up, and that is companionship. So how important is companionship in marriage?
Companionship is very, very, very important because what one can do, two can do better. And now, actually, the thing of companionship, already you have become one. How, when God says the two shall become one, it means whatever you do, you mind your partner. You no longer make decisions because of yourself, your own agenda, your own, ambitions. You're making this decision also considering your spouse. That is companionship now. Anytime, sometimes, because marriage is a journey, sometimes there will be storms, sometimes there will be rain, sometimes there will be drought. Now, this is where now this spouse comes in. Companionship, my love, my husband, my wife, these two shall come to pass. Let us press on towards the goal of our marriage. That is when now the companionship comes in.
Yeah. And still, in line with that, how do you ensure that you maintain connection, between the two of you, for a couple, after you live together for many years? I tend to believe that sometimes you get bored with each other and, sometimes you don't feel like the connection is there. So how do you maintain connection?
What I can say personally, by the grace of God, I've been with my husband for 17 years and God has been so faithful. What keeps us together mostly is doing things together. Like, if it's praying, we pray together. I'm a visionary for Women Travel. Women Travel is a movement that redeems, rectifies, and restores marriage. We are almost 9,000 members currently, and we are saying this is what matters to us. And as we redeem marriages, I make sure that my husband is in what I am doing. I am also involved in his day-to-day life. This makes us more closer to each other every day. Every morning is a morning of assurance that my husband, this also shall come to pass in case we are in a difficult situation. Because marriage is not a bed of roses. Things will happen. Things will come on. So that is the time now. You need to be also so close to your spouse. Let him feel you, let her feel you. You are ever present for that person. When, for us that are in the marketplace, I'm also a manager at a microfinance, my credit remittent. So for us that are in the marketplace, we get so carried away by the daily chores, the activities in the marketplace. Now, how many times do I hear his call? How many times also does he receive my calls? Matters a lot. Keep the connectivity. Check on your spouse more frequently than anybody else.
Yeah. How do you go about resolving, conflicts, among you in order to ensure that your relationship remains healthy?
Now, if I can be able to answer that, I'll take you back to midwifery duty. A midwife is somebody who sees something or somebody or a vision or a child is born in a safety manner. That's what we can call midwifery. When it comes to crisis in a marriage, now this hits differently. This hits differently because you're receiving it from a person you treasure, you love, And allow me to answer it with one example in the Bible. There is this woman that was called Abigail. Remember Abigail?
Yeah.
And Nabal. Nabal was the husband. But the Bible says that Nabal behaved in a disrespectful manner to King David. And King David wanted to kill the man. But the Bible says that this woman was so clever. She leaned to King David and told King David, I know my husband is a fool. I know my husband is a fool, but forgive him. Now, trying to resolve what was happening in this marriage, that simply could have ended this marriage. It could have ended this marriage. Because now the man is behaving foolishly, and the wife is so wise, but now she has to cover up the foolishness of the husband. This one simply means when crisis comes in, there must be a spouse who will rise beyond the feelings, beyond the emotions, beyond the reality on the ground. One spouse must rise to midwife this thing called marriage. Because it's a child. It is a vision before the eyes of God. It is a life purpose towards a generation. There must be a sober spouse. Amidst that push and pull, one must show himself or herself as a midwife to nurture what is about to break, what is about to end. Yeah. So you need a lot of wisdom. You need to go beyond ukweli, yani the reality on the ground, the reality. Kile una deal nacho. It is true, yes. It is true he has cheated. It is true she has cheated. But what else? You need to rise above that by the wisdom of God to salvage what the enemy is about to break. Because the Bible says that we forgive 7 times by 77. So a day. So that simply means haikusema forgive this and all that.
Yeah.
It is every sin forgive. So when commotions and struggles and troubles of marriages, because they come in as you move on and mature up. Because what you were doing 2 years ago in a marriage of 2 years, is not what a couple of 10 years is doing. The goals have changed.
Yeah, and change is inevitable. So how do you adapt to the change?
You need to adapt, because if I can be honest, according to Helen's view, this is not some biblical or somebody else. According to my view, the day you said yes to your husband, and you were about to go to the reception after the church ceremony, the husband was like, your husband was already moving 10, 20, 30 years planning about this marriage. But now the wife is still thinking about, the honeymoon, after the honeymoon, where do we go? Okay, the man is set like a visionary. He moves at a very high speed. You were the target. You were the target. All you were the project when he wanted to marry. After, now you say yes, and now you are almost there. He is already moving to another project. It's not a sin. They are programmed that way. So we, as spouses, we need to adjust to the growth of our marriages every day and the stages our marriages are taking.
Okay. Now, as we come to a close of this conversation, maybe just to the person who's watching right now and they're looking to get into marriage, what do you know now that you didn't know about the purpose of marriage when you were getting into it that would help them as they get into this journey of marriage that they are looking into?
If you're watching at us and you really want to get into marriage, I want you to understand that this one is a God institution. And if you're not ready to submit to the word of God, to the voice of God concerning this institution, please don't. If you are not ready to forgive uncountable times, please don't try this institution. Number 2, put your objectives and put your desires in marriage on an open ground to your spouse before you say yes. And that way, you shall agree before you get in. Marry your friend, marry a God-fearing spouse. As I finish, We always meet in the Nairobi city to redeem marriages. If you have any challenge, if you are about to get married, kindly find Woman Travel International on your Facebook and on your YouTube. And this month, the month of May, we had a very successful meeting for marital people in the National House.
Okay.
The National House, second floor along Koinange Street on date 8th of June. Karibu sana, from morning to evening. Karibu sana, come we travel for marriages.
All right, thank you so much, Apostle Helen, for joining us on this conversation. And this is where we wrap up Good Morning Kenya for today. On behalf of everyone who has made the show a success, we wish you a lovely day. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. My name is Vivian Degwa. Goodbye.
For 60 years, the African Development Bank Group has played an integral part in Africa's socio-economic transformation. From the 27th to the 31st of May 2024, the African Development Bank Group will host its 2024 annual meetings at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi, Kenya. This year's theme will be Africa's Transformation, the African Development Bank Group, and Reform of the Global Financial Architecture. The high-level meetings will be hosted by the President of Kenya, His Excellency Honorable Dr. William Ruto, and the